Welcome or welcome back to my channel. I am the Nosy Witch and this is my channel, Nosy Witch Tarot. First of all, happy 2025. 2024 was a year, but we made it. We're still here and I hope we can all make this new year our best year yet. Before I introduce this reading today, I wanted to mention that it has just been my 1 year anniversary here on YouTube. And with that, I just wanted to take the time to thank you all from the bottom of my heart for your support this past year. I am not going to make the mistake of mentioning a specific number of subs here because I made that mistake before and embarrassed myself, and the numbers go up and down every single day, to be honest. But what I will say is that when I started this channel, I never in a million years envisioned that I would even reach 20 subs. So in that context, I've far surpassed the expectations that I initially had, and I have you guys to thank for that. I say it all the time, and I'm sorry to be so soppy again and again, but I've always been passionate about tarot. It's something I've been doing since childhood, and getting to share that passion with you has been absolutely amazing. And I don't think, honestly, I would have continued with it and hit that milestone of being on YouTube for a year if it wasn't for some of your kind words and your feedback throughout this journey. As we know, the internet isn't always an incredibly kind place, and up until last year, I'd done a really good job of keeping myself hidden in all aspects of life. And a lot of this was due to my own fear of being seen. All of that changed when I decided to put myself out here and make this channel, and that was really, really scary for me. And yes, of course, I've received comments that haven't always been the kindest, some of which I can actually accept as constructive criticism, and other comments have been outright mean. But the positivity from you guys has just far outweighed that. Your love and your support and the kindness that you show through your likes and your comments has meant the world to me, and it's made me feel so incredibly welcomed in this community. Not only that, but I also feel like I've made some faraway friends. Some of you, I know we don't know each other personally, like I literally don't know your names, you don't know mine, but I remember your usernames, I remember the details about your lives, and I love hearing about what you're up to, and I do genuinely think about you as I would with my real life friends. I hope you know just how much you all mean to me, and whenever you tell me that one of my readings has helped you, even in a tiny little way, just know that you telling me that in turn helps me more in ways that you just can't even imagine. So happy new year, you are so appreciated and I love you lots. Now, I wanted to do this reading today because sometimes to get our new year started off on the right foot, we need a little bit of a pep talk. I feel like sometimes we set our intentions and we make our resolutions with all of the right energy, but often when the new year actually hits, we realise that although we're ready for a fresh start, we still have a little bit of our 2024 baggage to offload. We might also find that we need a little something to uplift our spirits due to outside factors too. So one example for me is I've been wanting to go on more walks and get more steps in. Now, a lot of this, of course, is to do with maintaining health, and to be fair, I do walk quite a lot anyway in my day-to-day life, especially when I'm at work, but a lot of this is, in actuality, to do with my mental health. I've been a little bit stressed out with some external things throughout late November and December in my personal life, and I was noticing that particularly in the evenings and when thinking about the upcoming days, I'd have like a surplus of energy, but it was almost like anxious, restless energy. So even though my brain was really, really tired and sort of done for the day, I was feeling the need to move my body as a way to stay present. Now, I used to do a lot of home workouts in the room I'm in right now, but currently I do not have the space to move at all. And I was looking at gym memberships, but it's a little bit out of my budget at the moment. So I was like, I'm just going to commit to walking more because I like walking, I like being outside. I find it easy to walk and kind of zone out and listen to whatever's on my headphones, or the tarot readers, or the YouTube channels, podcasts, music. So I was like, great, I'll do that. Like, I'm ready for this. Then literally on New Year's Day, everywhere in my city got flooded. I live in the north of England, by the way, so this happens. We have had some extremely heavy rain and weather warnings, and then floods and streets being closed off, etc. Now, I am very, very lucky where I live. It hasn't been too bad. We didn't have to evacuate, but I know that where my parents live, it was more severe. And I remember when I did live with them on years prior, we did have to evacuate sometimes. And that was the case for a lot of people in that area this time as well. Now, luckily, everyone is safe, everyone is good. The rain has actually calmed down a lot now. It's actually really sunny today, which is strange. But the reason I'm using that as an example is because basically I'm saying, like, sometimes we set intentions and then things out of our control get in our way and kind of thwart our plans a bit. And sometimes these are external things like flooding, and other times this is us getting in our own head. And I just want you to know this reading is timeless. You don't have to be watching around the new year. This reading is for you at any point where you are hoping to make change in your life. But for this reading, we are basically asking, what do you need to know right now? What do you need to hear? What does your higher self want to tell you? So if you've been struggling to get this new era of your life started, or if you're in that energy of really making those changes, but you could just do with a little bit of a boost from an enlightened being, this is the reading for you. This is a channeled message from your higher self here to give you a talking to, give you a little bit of a pep talk and hype you up if you need it. So in terms of the reading breakdown, we're going to start by looking at just one oracle card, and this will be your energy check. So in the energy check, we're going to be looking at what your higher self wants to bring to your attention right now. So this could be something you've been struggling with, something you are working to improve, or something you're hoping to prioritize more in 2025 or whenever you are watching. We are then going to be moving on to the tarot portion of your reading and doing a deeper dive on this energy by looking at any challenges you might be facing, telling you exactly what you need to hear and giving you that much needed pep talk from your higher self. So this is going to kind of be a laid back reading in terms of I'm just letting whatever wants to come out, come out. I'm also going to be doing something I don't normally do, and I'm going to be pulling the cards on camera for the tarot reading. Now, I've never been opposed to pulling the cards directly on camera. I just often prefer to do it off camera to firstly save time because my readings are already kind of long, but also because it helps me focus on connecting with the cards and with the energy rather than me getting distracted trying to do like a pretty shuffle and make it look really aesthetic, because I can't do that. And I know some of you guys connect with readings better when you can see the cards coming out though, so I am going to do that for you today. And I know others of you probably don't care either way, so if you want to skip that section, that's fine. It is there if you want it, and if that's something you want to see more of in the future, then please let me know. Just for your information, I will probably speed that section of the video up during editing, again just to save time, but it's there if you want to watch it. So usual disclaimers here, it's a collective reading, not every single detail or example is going to resonate for you, nor would I expect it to. Please take what's for you and leave the rest for somebody else. If you do not identify some aspect of yourself within the energy check, I would encourage you to choose a different pile. You are also welcome to choose more than one if more than one is calling to you, and if you would like multiple pep talks today, you are more than welcome to have multiple. You deserve it, take it, it's yours. Please know that energies are not set in stone and you do not have to accept anything as your story if it isn't. You are the creator of your reality. I am literally just the messenger. If the reading is at any point becoming more harmful to you than it is helpful, please disengage from the reading if that is going to be in your best interest. With all of that said, let's have a look at the piles today. So you are choosing from 5 oracle cards today. These are from the Shine Your Light Oracle deck. Here we have pile 1 with the multicoloured snake. Here we have pile 2 and the sunflower snake. Here we have pile 3 and the white snake. Here we have pile 4 and the tortoise shell snake. And here we have pile 5 and the blue snake. Once you've chosen your pile, please head to the pinned comment or the description box below. There are timestamps listed there that will take you to the start of your chosen reading. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening. Please don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe if you get a chance, even if it's just to let me know what pile you picked. That all helps me so much. It is the easiest and best way to support this channel. Happy New Year, lots of love, and I'll see you at your reading. Hi Pile 1 Collective, if you chose Pile 1 and you chose the multicoloured snake sticker, you are in the correct place. Welcome to your reading, friends. If you would like a full reading breakdown, please feel free to check out my introduction. I go through absolutely everything there. But this reading is basically asking, what do you need to know right now? What do you need to hear? What does your higher self want to tell you? So if you've been struggling to get this new era of your life started, or if you're in the energy of making changes and you could just do with a little bit of a boost from an enlightened being, we are going to be connecting with your higher self today. And this is the reading for you. So this is a channeled message from your higher self here to give you a talking to, give you a little bit of a pep talk, and to hype you up if you need it. So we are going to start off this reading by tapping into your energy. We're going to be looking at this oracle card. And for this energy check, we're going to be looking at what your higher self wants to bring to your attention most right now. So this could be in relation to something you have been finding challenging recently, maybe something you're working to improve this upcoming year, or something you're hoping just to prioritize more in general over this next year in 2025 or whenever you are watching. This reading is timeless. And then the tarot will be a deeper dive on that energy, and we will get into that much needed pep talk. So this is going to be kind of a laid back reading in terms of like, I'm just letting whatever wants to come out. Usual disclaimers here, it's a collective reading, not every single detail or example is going to resonate for you, nor would I ever expect it to, so please take what's for you and leave the rest for somebody else. And if the reading is at any point becoming more harmful to you than it is helpful, I don't want that for you, so please disengage from the reading if that is going to be in your best interests. Thank you so much for all of your support. I did do a little thank you in my intro if you would like to check that out, but I just want to say it again here. Thank you so much for your ongoing support. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen to these readings, to listen to me ramble, to like, to comment. All of that just means so much to me, and I just appreciate your support, and thank you for being here in any capacity. And with that said, if you haven't done so already, please take a moment to like, to comment, to share, or to subscribe. Any of that would help me so much, and I would really appreciate it. With all that said, let's get started by looking at your oracle card today, pile one. Okay, so let's just pop your snake here. And we have got believe in yourself, unleash your inner unicorn. So for you, pile one, I really feel as though what your higher self wants for you is for you to feel safe unmasking and for you to feel safe expressing your authentic self. I'm definitely getting that you are probably somebody who has always felt different in some way. You could have sensed for a long time that some aspect of you did not quite align with the status quo. In whichever way this applies, this can apply in a more physical sense, perhaps to do with your outward appearance or a specific demographic that you come from. Maybe you are part of a marginalised community in some way. I also highly suspect that this could be my neurodivergent pile. That won't apply to everyone, but we could have some neurospicy people in this pile. This could also be my LGBTQ plus pile. But yeah, there is absolutely some sense here of you feeling in the past alienated due to a way you are or due to how you express yourself, how you do things, how you show up in the world, something you believe. And in the past, it feels like there are some wounds attached to you being that authentic version of you, you being able to show up honestly in the world. It feels as though there's a certain element of shame or guilt attached to that. So perhaps someone in your life at one point or another potentially made you feel like something about the way you wear was wrong. And I feel like your higher self wants you to know that you are absolutely perfect the way you are. If you were made different, it's because you have the right kind of differences, and those differences were meant to be seen. They weren't meant to be filtered or moderated. They weren't meant to be hidden away. I feel like a lot of you can be quite self-conscious when it comes to your perceived differences. And a lot of the time within society, within certain contexts, it might feel like you are wearing a mask, or that you sometimes feel alone even when you are surrounded by people. Now, this could be in relation to something like you feeling as though you are the black sheep within your family, like people in your family do things a certain way, and if you do anything outside of that, it is deemed too weird or too out of the box, and you were made to feel a certain amount of shame for a particular lifestyle or belief that you follow. However, this could just be within the context of society as a whole, within certain friendship circles that you've made in the past. Maybe there was always some element of like, I am part of this group, I am part of this community, but I'm not really part of it. So that could be like you made friends and they were, okay friends to go out with and to have fun with, but there was some kind of barrier of you being able to truly express your feelings with this group or truly show up as who you are and have those authentic, meaningful conversations. Or it could be in terms of certain colleagues. And I'm picturing you as this person on this card. Looking very vibrant and looking very colourful. And maybe being surrounded by people in like office suits. And it's almost like these people in these suits are robots. And you're kind of saying like, am I the only real person here? Like, why does nobody ever want to have a real conversation about certain kinds of deeper topics and things like that? You could like to really talk about philosophical topics. You could like to have deeper conversations. You could really struggle with small talk. I think I have said this in a few of my readings before, but I'm definitely getting that strong energy coming through of like sometimes you're surrounded by people and it still feels like you're alone because you haven't really found anyone to match your energy. And I feel like you have actually been working on being more authentic and showing aspects of yourself, but I feel like there is still a little bit of a barrier here. Like there's still some element of self-consciousness, maybe due to a belief that you were clinging onto, that aspect of yourself wouldn't be loved or wouldn't be fully appreciated, or to be successful you have to do XYZ and you have to go down this certain route. There's something about sea moss coming through. I don't know why. Is somebody using sea moss? Is somebody taking sea moss as a supplement? I don't know why that's coming through. I also keep hearing the lyrics from that Greatest Showman song, specifically the bit that's like, this is me. I'm sorry. But yeah, it's like your higher self really wants you to come out and basically just say, like, this is me, take it or leave it, because that's okay. And I don't know at what point in your past you were made to feel like that wasn't okay, but I think your higher self wants you to know that it is. It's fine for you to be you. Your higher self wants you to feel safe to do so. Your higher self wants you to believe in yourself and believe that you can be successful and you can get what you want by being just how you are, because you were made different for a reason, pal one. I'm also hearing, I think it's a Bruno Mars song. I've not heard it in years. Oh, I can't remember what the actual song is called, but one of the lyrics is like, "You're amazing just the way you are." Sorry, I'm not going to sing it because I can't sing. But yeah, that is what's coming through right now. So there could be something here about, I don't know, I'm getting like a really funny energy from this pile. I feel like you guys could have kind of a self-deprecating humour. So you could be the kind of person who maybe sort of sings cheesy songs like that, kind of sarcastically. So somebody's coming out and kind of saying like, "This is me," but they're expecting backlash from it. So you could actually come across a lot of the time as quite unbothered when it comes to how people perceive you, because I think you have actually done a lot of work when it comes to your authentic expression of self. But there's something about you at times not fully committing to it, or you're like, "This is me," but you expect to have your feelings hurt. You expect people to reject that. And so you've kind of developed this self-deprecating humor, this sarcasm, this way of being. And maybe this is a kind of guard and a reaction to rejection that you've dealt with in the past. It's kind of hard to explain, but I feel like you could be somebody who deep down has a desire to maybe be more honest or be more vulnerable about who you truly are with the people around you. But at the same time, there's still a little bit of a barrier up, and this barrier could come in the form of that humour that we talked about. This could be kind of a guard. I mean, one example of this could be like, you could be the kind of person who, if there is an expression of true feelings, you might sort of, not backtrack, but you might say, like, if you say something that's heartfelt and open and honest, you might be like, "Oh, I'm sorry for being cringe," or like, "Oh, cringe." Like, you might kind of take it back. And that is a sort of guard that you have. So it feels like there is this focus on you prioritizing the parts of yourself that you haven't wanted to look at because you thought they were too cringe. But I think what your higher self wants you to know is that all aspects of yourself deserve to be seen and deserve to be loved unconditionally. And you are in a position where you are very much capable of giving yourself that love, pal one. You don't have to shut down any aspect of yourself to be loved or to be appreciated. Your higher self wouldn't change you because they know that you are meant to be like this for a reason. And you don't have to lessen any of your impact to make yourself more palatable to other people around you. You don't have to subscribe to other people's beliefs. It wouldn't surprise me if you were someone growing up who asked why a lot, like who always questioned things, who was maybe a little bit rebellious, who maybe wouldn't adhere to rules if they didn't make sense to you and your personal belief system. And obviously people are going to challenge that, because somebody showing up authentically, that might question their worldview. And that's an uncomfortable feeling. You could have had a good deal of, I don't want to say mean girls because it's not exclusive to girls, but mean, jealous, envious vibes surrounding you in the past. Because I think people have always been aware that you stand out in some way, but it's almost that energy. And I've talked about this before in one of my other readings, but sometimes people are attracted to the light, they're drawn in by it because it speaks to a part of them that isn't being heard and a part of them that is concerned with being more palatable or fitting in with the status quo. But sometimes that can be terrifying to encounter, and so then sometimes those people will react with repulsion when it's actually attraction. It's deep, deep, deep attraction. They are sensing in you something that they lack. They are drawn to your light, but because they can't fully stand in it, they instead want to try and cast a shadow over you. So that can show up by, questioning your approaches, questioning what you are doing, making you feel small for not following the crowd or not fitting in with that status quo, not doing something that is conventional to that society. It can look like bullying, it can look like put downs. You could have experienced some of that growing up, pal one. Maybe you thought things, you expressed things, you talked about things, and people would respond saying like, "No, that's weird," or "No, that doesn't make sense." But I think your higher self wants you to know that it never ever had to make sense to them. It's more important that it makes sense to you. I'm hearing like, am I crazy as well? And the thing is, like, I don't think you are crazy at all, pal one. But I think sometimes this is how we feel when we are surrounded by not the right people. And maybe that has been a thing for you in the past. Maybe you haven't always been surrounded by people who could nurture your unique gifts instead of shutting them down. But it's almost giving me this image of like you falling into some parallel universe, and it's like this dystopian society, but everyone is acting like it's completely normal. And you are so attuned to the fact that it isn't normal. You know, this is not what we should just be accepting as the way we do things or as our reality. But people around you don't necessarily seem to be paying as much attention to this, because to them, this is just another day. This is how they operate. They haven't really questioned it. They haven't really dove deep into whether that's actually what they want to be doing and whether that is an authentic way of living to them. I'm hearing this phrase like it's almost like the world's gone blind. It feels like the world's gone blind. So you could be very sensitive and attuned to the things going on around you, and sometimes it makes you feel like an outsider when people aren't really feeling those strong feelings on the same level about some of the things that are going on in your vicinity. This could be that you are very empathetic when it comes to other humans being treated badly, maybe children being treated badly, animals being treated badly, the earth being treated badly. It could be that you're saying like, am I crazy? Because you feel so much of this all the time. And it's like, why is nobody else around me having a breakdown over this? Like, am I just crazy? Like, why am I so wrapped up in this heavy feeling? But it's because you are very, very attuned, and because you have a deep calling to do things differently. And I think your higher self wants you to know that you're absolutely allowed to feel that way, and that your sensitivity is a gift. And sometimes it can feel lonely and it can feel isolating when other people around you don't seem to be feeling that way. But I think sometimes what we forget is that as much as you might be feeling these things on the inside, there are probably hundreds and thousands of people who feel the way you do and feel that intensely, and they see things in a similar way to you. But maybe they too are masking that aspect of themselves because they feel like it makes them weird or they feel like it makes them different. I think your higher self wants you to love yourself exactly how you are now at this moment, and understand that it is not easy to be authentically yourself 100% of the time. I really do feel like you have been working on this, even when you have been faced with rejection for being who you are, when you have been faced with shame and opposition. I'm also hearing something about becoming more comfortable in your own skin and in your own body. I'm hearing somebody say crop me out or just edit me out or something like that. So some of you could be very uncomfortable, even being seen in the physical sense, like having photographs of yourself taken. You could really get self-conscious when it comes to looking at photographs of yourself, or when a friend posts you on social media, you could feel the need to kind of monitor that, or to say like, oh, well, I just won't be in the picture because I know I'm not going to like the outcome. And I know that's not going to apply for everyone, but if it does apply for you, I think this is your higher self saying, please do not miss out on the fun, do not miss out on the memories, due to fear over what you might look like. In 50 years, you're not going to look back at those photographs and be like, oh my gosh, that was such a bad night because I had a double chin on this picture. You're going to be like, I had the best night with my friends. We had fun. You're not going to be focused on the way you looked. All you're going to think about is the memories attached to those moments. But for some of you, I'm getting that you've always felt like an imposter on this earth, and in the past you felt like you've had to adapt to the way these earth people do it, even though you know that you're an alien and you know that essentially they're doing it wrong, or that you have more progressive ideas that you could talk to people about, that you could express, that you could showcase. But instead, you've filtered yourself, you've masked, you've been closed off due to fear of judgment. But I think your higher self wants you to know that this is no way to live, because you were meant to shine, pal one. You weren't meant to hide yourself. Whether this is in a physical way, like wearing baggy clothes to hide a new body that you are not 100% comfortable with, or whether this is in an emotional way of you not telling people when they have upset you because you feel like that is too vulnerable, or you being afraid to come across as weird, you being self-conscious when it comes to doing anything because you're worried that somebody will identify you, they'll spot you, they'll realize that you're not of this earth. That is no way to live, because you weren't given all of this progressive knowledge and this outsider knowledge, so you could not make changes in this world. Also, what your higher self wants you to know is that you don't have to do things the way that other people do them in order to be successful. You don't have to follow a path that was set for you in order to do everything that you want to do and become whoever you would like to become. There is no path that is off limits for you. It might be that you just have to do things a slightly different way. And I'm also hearing that your journey cannot be compared to anyone else's, because you were meant to pave the way. Your higher self wants to tell you as well that you are so supported on this journey more than you know. Your higher self knows that this isn't easy for you, but you are going to be so much more happy when you are able to live authentically. And I'm hearing really show them who you are. You need to show them who you are because you were meant to do that. You don't have to hide who you are to be loved or accepted. That's something that your higher self really wants you to prioritize. So in a basic sense, this could be, you choosing to wear what you want to wear, even if it's unconventional, even if it doesn't fit in with society's conventional standards of beauty, even if people criticize you for it. I think your higher self really wants you to just believe in yourself and believe that you know best. And whatever you do, it only has to be approved by you. You don't need anybody else's approval and validation to do things in your own unique way. In fact, that is where you shine most brightly. So that is what I'm getting for the oracle portion of your reading, Power 1. I really hope you're enjoying the reading so far. We are about to move on to the tarot, so please bear with me and we will get started with that. Hi, Power 1 Collective. We are about to get started with the tarot portion of your reading. So we are going to be elaborating on some of the things discussed throughout the oracle. We are going to be using the Modern Witch Tarot today. I don't know if I'm going to use this deck for every single pile. We will see. Okay, Spirit, what does pile 1 need to hear right now? So for what you need to hear right now, pile 1, we have got the Queen of Pentacles upright. And as the clarifier, we have got the Four of Pentacles. We have the Seven of Swords reversed with the clarifier of the King of Swords. We have the Seven of Pentacles upright with the High Priestess reversed as the clarifier. And we have the Four of Swords reversed. I wasn't sure whether to take this reversed. If you saw, it kind of came out like flipped horizontally. That happens with a lot of my reads. So as we get further into the reading, hopefully we will figure out how this was intended to come out. Okay, so the main thing that your higher self wants to tell me is that it's okay for you to take that leap and step out of your comfort zone. If you've been feeling a pull to do that, your higher self wants you to know that it's time and that you're safe, and the things that you're most scared of, pile 1, aren't going to happen. And I'm hearing this time around. So this could be in relation to past wounds, past rejection, past bullying even. But your higher self is telling you that it's not going to happen now. And if it does, you're going to be able to deal with it this time around because you've created enough stability within yourself that you no longer need to cling to this security blanket. Some of you might have like a literal emotional support blanket or a hoodie because I'm seeing someone wrapped up really tightly like a little burrito. I'm getting the burrito image, and I'm also getting the image of somebody outgrowing a blanket specifically. So as one example, the blanket that you were wrapped up in as a baby, it kept you warm when you needed it, but it's not going to do a great job of keeping you warm and safe when you're a fully grown adult. It's just not going to happen like that. You can try and wrap it around yourself, but it's not going to go very far, and you're going to feel exposed anyway because you're too big for that baby blanket. So there's something about letting go of this sense of security that's actually been holding you back. For some of you, it feels like one of your coping mechanisms or defense mechanisms or whatever for the longest time has been in relation to you trying to maintain control over how you are perceived to the outside world in order to keep your status in some way. That is something that I'm hearing. So to give some practical examples of that, this could look like you modifying your behavior when interacting with other people. Maybe sometimes you stay silent when actually your soul is calling you to speak out. Or even on the flip side, this could look like over-explaining things due to some kind of fear that you'll be misinterpreted if you were to articulate yourself in an unfiltered way. This could even show up as you trying to cultivate an appearance that is more in alignment with conventional beauty standards because in the past maybe you've been penalized or punished for showcasing your true personal style. This could look like you not going after a dream or a big goal of yours because you're worried that if you make it public, you're going to be laughed at or you're going to be reprimanded by certain authority figures in your life, and maybe it takes you back to that place of feeling othered. That could still be a little bit of a trigger for you at times, so you kind of avoid putting yourself in those situations altogether at times. And this could have a lot to do with social anxiety. Like, basically, you might feel out of balance during those situations where you cannot control how someone interprets you. Maybe it brings up these past wounds for you, and so you'd rather sometimes stay in your comfort zone and not put yourself in that situation in the first place. And listen, I actually relate a lot to this pile in many, many, many ways. I'm someone who has personally dealt with a lot of social anxiety, and I still do, to the point where in the past it has been difficult to even leave the house. Like, antisocial girls and boys unite. So I recognise a lot of myself in this pile, but it seems as though there is some element of self-consciousness and almost an excessive amount of self-awareness with you, pile one. And don't get me wrong, self-awareness is a great thing when used productively, but sometimes for you, this kind of turns into self-flagellation and you berating yourself at times for simply existing. You're hiding certain aspects of yourself still because it's better for you to stay in your lane and control that narrative of how you're seen than it is to fully put yourself out there and open yourself up to rejection. You could be someone who gets embarrassed easily for honestly no reason, but to you it feels like a big thing. It feels like you are someone who is very hyper aware of their every movement because you're scared of messing up or being seen as imperfect in some way, and that leading to you losing your status as this Queen of Pentacles. You might actually struggle to trust your own competency, and I think your higher self wants you to know that you are a lot more capable than what you give yourself credit for, and that you can trust yourself more than what you think. And it could be when it comes to big things, but it could even be to do with little things. Like if you have social anxiety, as one example, and you push past that social anxiety by going to the supermarket yourself, you could be hyper aware of yourself and also other people around you. And so maybe you get these intrusive thoughts trying to creep in, like, oh my god, I've been stood next to the onions for so long, I better move, or people are going to think that I have a weird thing for onions. This is humiliating. What if people think I'm stealing the onions? And I need like 10 onions, but what if people think that's an excessive amount of onions? And what if this person next to me thinks I'm being greedy and I'm taking too many onions? Maybe I should just take 5, even though I need 10. Oh god, I bet everyone's looking at me and thinking, who is that strange person? Buy the onions. I need to leave, this is too much. And then you leave and then you berate yourself for being self-obsessed and thinking too much about your relationship to those onions. And you're like, for fuck's sake, pal one, why couldn't you just get your onions and leave like a normal person? Obviously not that exact example, but it's basically what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of overthinking and worry of how others will perceive you or your actions. But what I want you to know, and I think what your higher self wants you to know, is that the fear of being truly seen didn't just come from nowhere. And there is no judgment from me. There is no judgment from your higher self either, because they know exactly why this happens. They have been with you every step of the way, and they need you to know that it is okay that you have used this as a coping mechanism, but it's also okay to acknowledge that this is something you are outgrowing. And I think that is something that you have been acknowledging and you have been working on. It's going to be different for all of you, but for some of you, this hypervigilance and excessive awareness stems from a strict or controlling caregiver, or even a relationship that you've had more recently than your childhood. It could be that you were only allowed to express yourself in ways that were deemed acceptable to this person, whether that be in terms of your outward appearance, a fundamental aspect of who you are even, or an idea you tried to voice. Whatever the case may be, maybe you learned to shut a part of yourself down because it was made clear that that particular part wouldn't be accepted or that it wasn't a valuable contribution. And so maybe a coping mechanism for you is being as adjacent as you can be to the status quo, even if you know you're not really like those around you, because a part of you is saying, like, if I can just fit in, then I can get by and I can give myself an easy life where I'm not being pushed to question my worth or my value. For some of you, maybe you were heavily bullied for things that made you different or made you stand out. You now keep those things in the shadows some of the time because you don't want to do anything that would draw attention to you, even if it's in a positive way. Like, it won't be this exact example, but let's say you find a really unique piece of jewelry at the thrift store and something about it just feels so fundamentally you. You have to have it. Somebody could compliment that piece of jewellery and say like, wow, Pal One, you have such a cool and unique style. I've never seen anything like that before. You dress so different. And you're like, what? No, I don't. I got this necklace from Shein. I thought everyone had one like this. I know it won't be that example, but in this example, like, it's a good thing that you got your jewellery from a thrift store and that person was probably genuinely really admiring your style. But maybe in the past you got bullied for thrifting. Like someone said, ew, you get stuff from charity shops. That's for poor people. Or some kind of mean person rhetoric like that. Maybe now you talk yourself out of a chance to connect with someone similar to you on these beautiful things that do really make you different, because you automatically feel shamed when someone points out these quirks, even when it's coming from a good place. It doesn't have to be what you're wearing or even anything to do with your appearance. It can be whatever is a unique quirk to you. But I think the pep talk that your higher self wants to give you, they want to tell you that you're unconditionally loved for your unique attributes and not in spite of them. And you will not lose your status as the Queen of Pentacles because of your differences. In fact, the right people will connect more to you because of these differences. And I mean this in the most respectful way possible. Your guides are saying it is okay to be authentic because you are still that bitch no matter what. Like, gender neutral, by the way. You expressing more of yourself won't make you less of a baddie, and you've done a lot of work to live in your truth already, Pal One. I think your higher self is very, very proud of you for that. They want you to know that the things you've been so frightened of and the reason why you've been clinging onto this control, those things probably aren't going to happen the way you think. But if they do, you'd be very surprised by how little those things would affect you now. Your higher self wants to remind you that how you see yourself is always so much more powerful and way more valuable than how other people see you. And I say this as somebody who has a lot of my own wounds surrounding being misunderstood and, being fearful of people not interpreting me in the way I would like to be interpreted. So on a personal level, as your reader today, Pal One, I want to let you know that having insecurities surrounding our perception is valid, it's human, and it's okay to process those feelings. But what's not okay is for you to continue hiding your immense greatness and power to make yourself more palatable to other people. If you've been thinking of getting a big chop, like just chopping all your hair off, I know that's random, but like if a couple of you have, your higher self is saying, okay, I'm actually hearing like F what your mum thinks. So some of you could have a mother or a father or a caregiver generally who place value on a maybe performative aspect of femininity or something like that, or masculinity even. If it's femininity, maybe it's something like prioritizing having long hair over like what you actually wanted or your comfort. Maybe you literally weren't allowed to have short hair growing up, even if you felt like your long hair was getting in the way of you doing what you wanted to do. I know that's just one random example, it doesn't have to be this one, but it's basically a message to say, do whatever the fuck you want, Pal One, please. Start prioritizing yourself, start looking the way you want, start cultivating your image the way you would like to look, not based on what anyone else thinks. And regardless of that hair thing, I feel like this relates to any aspect of your life where you feel like you are performing in order to fit in or in order to be seen in a certain light. It could even be a different figure in your life, like a partner or your peers growing up. And I feel like your higher self is just saying like, F them. Not to be rude, but F them. That is just what I keep getting. And I'm also hearing they're bozos, which I've never ever used that word in my life. But like, these people are clowns and you don't have to adhere to their version of what it means to be human. That's what your higher self wants you to know. So this could be an aspect of your appearance, the way you dress, maybe catering less to the male gaze if that applies, maybe trying to release the baggage of performative femininity or performative masculinity, whichever gender identity you are. Perhaps choosing to articulate yourself and get your feelings across in a way that's a true expression of how you feel, and just showing up how you want to in a way that feels like the best thing for you, because who cares what they think? And it's funny, I actually heard a tiny little voice say like, yeah, who cares? But then, okay, I still care a little bit. And your higher self wants you to know that if you do still care about what people think a little bit, that's also okay. We are social creatures as humans. Even if we consider ourselves antisocial, we do like to connect with others. We do like to feel a sense of belonging. And your higher self needs you to know that if you aren't feeling this right now, then you will, but you do need to be prepared to step outside of your comfort zone and to do things differently. Because if you're a weird but wonderful alien doing a poor impression of a human, then yes, you are safe in the sense that you are maintaining that illusion of like, I'm just like the rest of them, but you are hindering your ability to connect with other weird and wonderful aliens and also to showcase your own wonder. I'm also getting the image of you either declining certain events or closely monitoring the way you come across when dealing with the outside world. And this specific example might not resonate. This is more of a superficial one, so you don't have to take it as literally as this. I'm just using this as an example of what I'm trying to get across. But let's say you have to attend an event, but you've recently put on weight or you've lost weight and you're not feeling as comfortable or as confident in your body as what you once did. It can sometimes be tempting to be like, oh, well, I'll just wear something super baggy or super oversized so people won't notice that I've put on weight. And if we are very, very real with ourselves, if we have noticed that we have put on weight, no baggy outfit is going to hide that, nor should it be hidden. Like, people might notice, and what your higher self wants to say is, who gives a shit if they do? And if you're saying, like, I give a shit, I don't want people to see me as lacking in control or as less conventionally attractive than I used to be, or whichever other labels you have assigned to this changing body, I want you to sit with that and really consider where that feeling is coming from. And in this example, why you feel like you're only worthy of being seen when you're maintaining a specific size or an arbitrary number on the scale. And it doesn't have to have anything to do with weight or your body or your appearance for you. But I think if you take this more metaphorically, this is saying if you're different in any way, if you stand out, if you shine, people are going to notice regardless. And there is no hiding it. So you might as well embrace it and show up in a way that makes you feel good. Because if we use that body example, the worst that can happen is somebody tells you that your body looks different. And you already know that. So, like, okay, what else? And the thing is, you can go to the event in the baggy t-shirt trying to detract attention from the fact you have changed, and somebody could still make that comment. But if you'd prefer to go to that event dressed to the nines, wearing something that you feel really good in, rather than hiding an aspect of yourself you feel would warrant criticism in that moment, yes, somebody might comment on that negatively, but at least you're living truthfully to who you are because you haven't been shamed into hiding for their benefit. The point is here, like, other people's negativity might happen either way, but your higher self wants you to not get lost in internalizing that because how you perceive yourself is much more important. This is basically saying, like, people can sometimes interpret you wrong no matter what you do. You can't protect yourself from other people's criticisms and other people's negativity 100% of the time, but what you can do is show up as the most authentic version of you and try your very best to not take what they have to say on board because that has nothing to do with you whatsoever. And I think this is something you'll really realise in, and your higher self is proud of you for that. And another message I'm getting here, and I think it's in relation to that example that we gave, but take it in whichever way it applies to you. I'm hearing that people can't hurt you by identifying something you already know about yourself. And this is where you might have adopted that sort of self-deprecating humour. This is giving me this energy of like you turning your insecurities into jokes and being more unfazed and unbothered when people try to use those things against you. And I think the thing is, it's like some of the people criticising you, would you want their life? And if the answer is no, why are you accepting their narratives about who you're meant to be? Like, if someone tells you at the party that you put on weight, truly look at that person and ask yourself, but are they happier than me? And more often than not, you'll quickly see, like, they're probably not. And I feel like that's something you're getting better at. It's acknowledging, like, it's actually sad that Sandra equates thinness with worth. I'm sorry that she feels that way about her own body. I am sorry that she feels so frightened of her body changing, but her criticism doesn't tell me anything about myself. You're getting better at realising that what other people value has no reflection of your inherent value. And your higher self loves that for you because for some of you, it's taken a long, long time to reach that place. But each day, you're getting so much better at it. And each day, you shine more brightly because of it. And you're realising, like, some of the things you've been shamed for, the people who shamed you for those things, quite honestly, had no clue what they were talking about. They weren't the authorities that you thought they were. And that can be the thing with many bullies and unpleasant people, is their criticism come from their own fear surrounding their unexpressed and unseen aspects. Because bullies don't just mind their business and ignore you. If they did, they wouldn't be a problem. Bullies will often instead react to your light. They're actually drawn to you because of it, but they mistake that attraction for repulsion. If you had nothing going for you, they wouldn't notice you. You'd just be one of the crowd that they ignore and they leave alone. But they don't, because you do stand out and you are meant to stand out. That is something your higher self wants you to know. It's something you're supposed to use. You've maybe spent time surviving, just trying not to get noticed and to try and stay afloat. But sometimes masking to this point actually makes you feel like you're drowning. Because yes, when you don't put yourself out there, nobody can see you. But that's also the problem. Nobody can see you. And some of you are like, why can't anybody see me? Even though you're the one who put the invisibility cloak on in the first place. It's time to take it off, is what your higher self is saying. Some of you have made decisions based on a preconceived idea of what other people would say or what others might believe is best for you. And sometimes you've ignored your intuition in the process, and you've ended up in turn feeling more like you don't belong, or feeling like a fraud, or almost like a diluted version of a human, because you've wound up in situations that don't truly align with who you are at a soul level. And you've looked around and you've been like, to put it bluntly, you've been like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, why am I here? Why am I doing this? I'm hearing sometimes mid-conversation, you could literally be talking to someone and in your head, you're saying like, why did I just say that? Or why did I just agree with this person when I didn't mean that? Or even, why did I just lie about that? Why am I pretending to be something I'm not? And your higher self wants you to know that you are not lesser because of that. Because a part of you discovering who you are had to involve you feeling like the outsider or the imposter in certain scenarios, because that's what's led to you questioning who you truly are and what it would mean for you to step into more of an honest representation of self. Those of you who have had strict authority figures in your life who criticize you for stepping a toe out of line or criticize some fundamental aspects of who you are, you could have a really deep wound when it comes to doing the wrong thing, and you could have had this false belief that other people had more authority or more knowledge or more insight than you when it comes to what that thing is. You could have actually been encouraged to be overly polite and agreeable at the expense of your own autonomy. Maybe some of you grew up being reprimanded for not wanting to hug your creepy uncle who wasn't actually your uncle because you were told it was impolite. So maybe you have become an adult who has had the tendency to people please or to accommodate other people at the expense of you feeling safe, even if it's like going against what your intuition is telling you. Maybe you've been taught to bend over backwards, even if it means that it leaves you feeling burnt out and exhausted. You could even have a wound when it comes to prioritizing adequate rest. Maybe you've been demonized in the past for wanting to have time to yourself or not committing to working extra hours or whatever the case may be. It could be that you've been made to feel like a bad family member or a bad friend or partner for needing time alone. So you've sacrificed that rest on the basis of like, well, this person needs me now. But your higher self really wants you to figure out what you need most right now, pal one. And if that is rest, then please rest. Your higher self really wants you to take good care of yourself and to understand that your needs might look different to other people's and that that's okay. We can't all have the same needs. Your higher self is saying like, don't push yourself to the point of collapse and burnout just to make sure that somebody else has what they need. First and foremost, you need to prioritize you. Your higher self wants you to know that your health is so important. Do not cancel your doctor's appointment because your boss wants you to pick up a shift that day. Do not feel bad about having to isolate from certain people for an extended period if that's what you need. You can rejoin the world when you are ready to, but your higher self is saying it's time to come out of the closet here. And that doesn't have to mean in terms of sexuality. For some of you, it could have something to do with that, maybe escaping heteronormative presentations. But for a lot of you, I think this is to do with you valuing your honest expression of self despite other people's judgments or reactions to that. And yes, it's true that not everyone is going to react kindly when you express boundaries, but that does not mean, pal one, that you just shouldn't express them. It doesn't mean you need to lessen your impact to make other people feel more comfortable. You could be the kind of person who is often making yourself more soft and delicate. Like, if you express a boundary, you could approach it really, really gently and always put, like, haha, at the end of your messages to kind of pillow that blow, because you're always thinking about how it would make other people feel for you to be honest. But I think your higher self wants you to ask yourself, how does it make you feel to have to contain all of yourself like this? Like, how does it make you feel to not show up honestly? Because you not being yourself is likely to affect you way more than being yourself is going to affect somebody else. Nobody is going to be that deeply affected by you cutting your hair or getting a tattoo or saying no to hugging the creepy uncle or doing whatever it is that you want. And if they are so deeply affected by that that it's stopping them living their life, respectfully, pal one, they are a bozo and that is a them problem. It's nothing to do with you. Your higher self wants to remind you that it's also okay to ask for support from the good people in your life. And I do feel like, as much as you've experienced unkindness and jealousy from certain people, I do think that you actually have some ride or die people in your life who would love to give you the opportunity to show you just how great you are. Sometimes you over worry about being a burden to others, but I think your higher self wants you to know that it really is safe to be honest with the people you trust, and you don't have to do everything alone. If you're working on something right now, it's okay to ask people for feedback. It's okay to show that you're vulnerable or that you could do with some kind words and support from time to time, just like everybody else, because we are all human and we all need that. Your higher self wants you to listen to your inner voice more because some of you have incredible ideas, but you don't fully believe you're capable of achieving them. You have incredible intuition, but you sometimes second guess yourself. And I think this is your higher self saying, like, you got it, don't worry, you understand. Nobody else needs to understand. I keep getting that message. And your higher self just generally wants you to know that you are way more capable than you give yourself credit for, and that whatever you want is yours, but you need to stop hiding in order to go after it. Because when you are honest with yourself and those around you, that's when you will shine most brightly and really thrive. So that is what I'm getting for what you need to know right now, pal one. That is what I'm getting for your pep talk from your higher self. I really, really hope you enjoyed this reading today. If you did enjoy the reading, please don't forget to like the video. Please leave me a little comment. Let me know what resonated, or just let me know which pal you picked if you don't feel comfortable doing that. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for being here. Oh, if you haven't subbed, please consider subscribing. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next one. Take care, pal one. Hi, pal 2 collective. If you chose the snake with the sunflowers and you chose pal 2, you are in the correct place. Welcome to your reading, friends. So this reading is basically asking, what do you need to know right now? What do you need to hear? What does your higher self want to tell you? This reading is timeless. You don't have to be watching around the new year. This reading is for you at any point when you are hoping to make a change in your life. So if you've been struggling to get this new era of your life started, or if you're in that energy of making some of those changes, but you could just do with a little bit of a boost from an enlightened being, this is the reading for you. This is a channeled message from your higher self here to give you a talking to, give you a little bit of a pep talk, and hype you up if you need it. So if you would like a full reading breakdown, please check out the introduction. I go through absolutely everything there. But we are going to start off by doing this energy check, and we're going to be looking at this one oracle card that you've chosen. And we're going to be looking at what your higher self wants to bring to your attention right now. So this could be something you've been struggling with, something you are working to improve, or something you are hoping to prioritize more in 2025 or whenever you are watching. We're then going to move on to the tarot portion, and that will be a deeper dive. Usual disclaimers, it's a collective reading, not every single detail will resonate, nor would I expect it to, so please take what's for you and leave the rest for somebody else. If you do not identify some aspect of yourself within the energy check, I would encourage you to choose a different pile. You are also welcome to choose more than one if more than one is calling to you, and if you would like multiple pep talks. Please know that energies are not set in stone, and you do not have to accept anything as your story if it simply isn't. You are the creator of your reality, I am just the messenger, and if the reading is at any point becoming more harmful to you than it is helpful, please disengage from the reading if that is going to be in your best interests. With all of that said, let's have a look at what we pulled for you today at pile 2. So we have this adorable snake with the sunflowers, and your oracle card is Allow Unlimited Abundance. So I feel like what your higher self really wants to highlight and forefront for you right now is that you are so much more deserving of amazing things than what you actually realise, pal two. But you need to allow yourself to believe that some of these things are possible for you. Because the overarching message I'm getting here is something about expecting the worst, or something about waiting for the ball to drop, or not fully believing that good things can happen. And I do want to say as well, like, none of these readings today are intended to be in any way a judgment. If you are mistrustful that good things can happen, I'm not using this reading as a way to shame you, because clearly there is a reason why you feel the way you do. And for some of you, it could be that maybe in the past you felt you had to settle for certain things within your life because maybe people have mistreated you. Maybe at some point you were led to believe, like, this is the best I can do. This is the best it's going to get for me. And I think your higher self wants you to know that that is untrue, but they understand why you feel that way. I think your higher self really wants to bring to your attention that there is absolutely zero limit on the things you are capable of and what you can achieve and the lifestyle you can cultivate for yourself. But some of you maybe need to start treating yourself as though those things are already true. And I know that's so much easier said than done. And it does depend on how you want your life to look. Of course, I understand we are all in individual situations. Like, for example, if one of your goals is something to do with your career or something to do with your financial situation, and you want to be earning a certain amount of money in the future, if you are not receiving that paycheck right now, I understand that you can't just live as if you are receiving that paycheck. Like, if you earn 30 grand a year, you can't live as if you earn 90 grand a year. I'm not telling you to go out and make loads of frivolous purchases and get yourself into debt. But I think what your higher self is trying to encourage you to do is to believe that those things can be possible for you. Some of you could be struggling with some elements of lack mentality. And I've mentioned it before on this channel, but I really don't like when certain readers or certain people within the spiritual community will use lack mentality as a way to shame people living in difficult circumstances and people in poverty. I don't want that lack mentality phrase to be used in a weaponized way like that. And I understand, as I keep saying, like, we are all in different scenarios here. So if you genuinely are in a position of, struggling to get by, struggling to pay your bills, just focusing on that, I understand that need for being in survival mode. And I understand why you wouldn't believe that things like making more money is easy, because it's not for you in your situation, and that is absolutely valid. And if that is the case for you, then I'm not necessarily talking to you, because I think lack mentality, for me, it's more when people can change a certain situation, but they always assume that it's going to turn out really badly. So perhaps they don't try to change that situation. So this is more like, you are financially stable, you are doing okay, you can pay your bills, you've got a roof over your head, you've got food on the table. And what your soul wants, what your soul is crying out for, is to progress, to do more. So maybe this could be something like applying for that job that you've always wanted to apply for. A lack mentality could be to do with talking yourself out of even applying for the job in the first place, because you think, oh, like, I'll never get that and I can't deal with the rejection, like, I'm just going to end up disappointed, so I just won't apply for it to begin with. It's when you do have the option, but you are choosing not to do something based on a limiting belief. So I'm not talking about circumstances that are out of your control here. That is basically what I'm trying to say. I'm talking about things that we can change and we choose not to, because we are always expecting the worst outcome. So I think basically your higher self wants you to know that abundance cannot come to you if you do not allow it in the first place. But I think your higher self is also saying, like, everything you're dreaming of, you deserve that and so much more, because you are the abundance. And with you picking the sunflower sticker, what I really want to say is that you have so much light surrounding you. And I think your higher self wants you to know that sometimes you give too much credit to the other people around you for spreading light, and what you don't realize is that that light is coming from you. You also have the capacity to create long-lasting change within your life. You can do something for the long haul. All the loyalty and all the love you give out to others, your higher self is saying that you deserve to get that back tenfold, but you need to believe that those things can happen for you. Your higher self wants you to know that you are so adored. You are the bright spot in people's day, and you don't even realize how much love and how much light you spread and how much you can lift people's spirits just by being around them. Sometimes you give credit to other people for doing that, but really it is you, pal, too. It is all you. You have so much radiance and so much power. You are such a bright light in this world, and your higher self wants you to start realizing that. Some of you, if you've been treated badly in romantic relationships or in friendships in the past, in your interpersonal relationships generally, you could have a belief that other people are always out to hurt you, and your higher self wants you to know that that is not the case. And the things that you had to deal with in the past, they weren't okay, but it doesn't mean that that is the treatment that you are going to receive forever. Some people really do have your best interests at heart, and I think your higher self doesn't want you to carry on living in this state of feeling like, what's the catch here? Like, some people can match your energy in the sense that they have genuine goodness in their hearts just as much as you do. But I think sometimes you are falling into the trap of unintentionally maybe treating people with suspicion, because if somebody is good to you, you almost don't believe that somebody can be that good, that they can be kind the way that you are. So this could apply, in terms of dating and things like that. Maybe this is denying yourself opportunities to date or to meet people or to be treated well because you feel like somebody wouldn't treat you well just for the sake of treating you well. Maybe you feel like, what are their intentions? What are they trying to get from me? People must always have an ulterior motive. And I understand this, and I think your higher self understands that this is a coping mechanism that you have developed to kind of protect yourself in a way, because I think you've said in the past, like, if you expect the worst from people, you won't end up disappointed, because maybe in the past you have been hurt because you have put somebody on a pedestal and they have ended up disappointing you or not living up to expectations. So now it's easier to approach people through the lens of like, how are they going to hurt me? And that kind of makes you back off. Maybe it makes you mistrustful with people. Maybe it makes you not say yes to opportunities of friendship or of romance or connecting with people generally, because you always feel like, I don't trust that this can stay good. I don't trust that this can be for the long haul. Again, you're always waiting for the other shoe to drop. But I think your higher self wants you to know that there is so much more for you than what you expect if you allow yourself to believe it. And they know that trusting other people and things like that isn't easy, but they want you to give yourself the opportunity to allow yourself to trust. Because yes, assuming the worst about people or assuming the worst in certain situations can protect us in that moment, but it can also result in us falling into the trap of thinking about everything through this lens of cynicism. And when we have that fundamental belief that people are not good or people are not worthy or nobody has pure intentions, we might also start to internalize those same beliefs about ourselves. And therefore, in turn, maybe we're not treating ourselves in the best way. We can't be good to ourselves if we believe that people are bad, because we are people. So maybe we start to believe we are not worthy of certain opportunities. We are not worthy of love and care because we are humans and humans can't be trusted. When we internalize that as a truth and as our reality, it is more likely that that is going to continue to be our reality. So I think this is your higher self wanting you to realize there is so much good in the world out there for you. You do not have to say no to opportunities because you think, how long will this goodness last? Your higher self doesn't always want you to be worrying about that. And I think also your higher self is saying you do not have to settle for less than what you actually deserve. So if you said like, I'm not in a good situation, whether it be with certain people in your life, like a relationship or your friendships, or even in a work setting, if you said, I know this environment, being surrounded by these people or in this situation, that isn't good for me. If you've said that, but then you've convinced yourself, well, it's better than nothing, or it's the best I'm going to do, I think your higher self is saying to you that you don't have to believe those things because you're the one with the abundance here. Don't settle for mediocrity because you think it is the best you can do in this moment, because by doing that, you could be denying yourself so many opportunities. Your higher self wants you to know that if you allow abundance to flow to you, and if you believe that you are not lacking anything and that you can get whatever you want, then those things will become a reality for you. But you have to truly believe it, and you have to take the steps to show that you believe it. So for those of you where you know that you are in a bad situation, and this isn't me saying like, oh, if you know you're in a bad job, just quit your job with nothing lined up. I don't mean that. I mean, like, believe that you can do better and apply to those better jobs, instead of thinking like, oh, well, this job is okay, like it's probably the best I can do, it's probably the most money I can earn, it's probably got the most stable hours. Don't favor mediocrity or something average because you don't fully envision a time when you are on your dream timeline or living your dream life, because it could just be right around the corner. But if you are continually denying yourself opportunities to step towards that and settling for less, then you are going to be stuck with less. And I want you to know, and your higher self wants you to know, that you do have a choice here. The same for being in a relationship. And again, I know it's easier said than done. There are certain situations where you can't just up and leave a relationship just like that, because maybe, you are living with somebody, maybe you're tied into a contract, maybe you don't have your own financial resources, maybe it's not safe for you to do so. I understand that. But I'm talking to the people where you do have a choice. If you are not happy in your relationship and you are not in alignment with somebody, you have to believe that you can do better than this. If somebody is treating you badly, don't just say, well, I'm going to stay with them until a better thing comes along, but this is the best I can do right now. What you need to do is end that situation and prioritize you. Because you're not going to get a better relationship if you're stuck in the same patterns and the same cycles, and you're not choosing to end the one that you're currently in and using it as a sense of security or like a backup plan. You need to believe that you don't need a backup plan, because you create abundance and warmth wherever you are. Like, wherever you go, the abundance will follow, because you are the abundance. You are this bright light. You don't need anybody to give you worth. You just have to trust that you are already worthy of everything that you want. So that is what your higher self wants you to know right now. We are going to elaborate on this in the tarot. So I really, really hope you are enjoying the reading so far, pal 2. That was your energy check. I hope this is resonating so far, and I will see you in the tarot portion of your reading. Hi, pal 2 collective. Welcome to the tarot portion of your reading. We are going to be pulling some tarot cards from the Modern Witch Tarot, and we are going to be elaborating on some of what was discussed throughout the oracle. We're going to be asking, what do you need to know right now? And we're going to be getting a pep talk from your higher self. What does your higher self want you to be aware of most? So just FYI, as I'm pulling the cards, I'm probably going to speed up this little section when I'm doing the editing, but I just wanted to give you the opportunity to see me pulling the cards so you could connect with this pile. Okay, so we have got the Ten of Swords. The clarifier is the Queen of Pentacles. We have the Ace of Cups reversed, with the clarifier being the Two of Wands reversed. We have the Empress upright, with the clarifier being the Ten of Pentacles. And we have the Two of Pentacles, with the clarifier being the Lovers in reverse. Okay, pile 2. So what your higher self wants you to know is that they are so aware that you have spent so much of your time lifting other people up and trying to help them do better, only for them to have turned around and disappointed you or backstabbed you in some way. And they know that that has taken a lot out of you, and so they understand this kind of mistrust and suspicion that you have. It does feel as though at times you have been left heartbroken or disappointed by people, and it's left you disenchanted with humanity as a whole. And maybe it's left you not fully believing that you could meet somebody on a similar level to you, somebody who matches your energy. It is going to be very different situations for all of you. For a lot of you, I am getting that this could be in relation to a relationship ending or a relationship breaking down, a final nail in the coffin here with that Ten of Swords. But ultimately, I think it can be to do with any situation where you have realized that this isn't what you thought it was, and it is not fulfilling to you, it is not making you happy, and you have had to truly come face to face with that, because for a long time, maybe you feel like you had invested too much in this situation, or you knew that something was a little bit off, something was feeling wrong, your gut was telling you that this wasn't all it was cracked up to be, basically. But then a part of you was torn because you felt like, I've put a lot into this, or I think a part of you felt as though your commitment and your goodness could uplift this situation to the point where some of your good kind of outweighs this person's bad to make the relationship or to make the situation good as a whole. Maybe you spent a long time sort of paving over the cracks. I don't want to say you were in denial, because I don't think it was that, but I think this mistrust that you have, it does obviously come from somewhere, and maybe at a point in your life you put too much stock in the belief that if you are to be better, then you can also make other people around you better. So maybe you did feel as though you forgave people for their indiscretions, or you chose to overlook certain things in favour of trying to uplift or up-level this situation in some way. So it feels like your intuition was pulling on you a little bit some of the time, and you knew deep down this thing was no longer aligning with you. You knew it wasn't making you feel fulfilled or satisfied, but it's like you kept pushing through because you're like, it's okay, I can overlook this, I can ignore this. And if I just nurture this, and if I just look after this situation and I put my all into it, then I can make this person or this thing better than it was. I can take it to this higher place. And I don't know why I keep getting that with the Two of Pentacles, because that is not necessarily what the card means. But I'm looking at this lady on the card, and the way she's holding the coins, it feels like you were up here and this person or this situation was down here. And if this coin is representative of you, it could be that you invested so much time into trying to lift this situation so that you and this situation could be in balance with one another, could be in alignment, that you then neglected aspects of yourself that really needed that care and needed that level of nurturing that you were giving to this other situation. And maybe you didn't fully want to come face to face with the idea that this situation and you were no longer aligned. So I know I'm talking about this in kind of an abstract way, and it's because this is going to be different things to different people. But with this Lovers in reverse, it feels like this was something you were trying so desperately to fit this into your life, to make it a part of your life, to continue on with it, even if you knew deep down that this is not the best you can do. Like, you can do better than this, and you know this. So this could be this Lovers reverse situation. This could be a job, a career you're no longer in alignment with. It could be a relationship that you have in your life. It does not have to be a romantic relationship. For a lot of you, it could be, because there is this sense of grief and of heartbreak here, and something being finalized, something coming to an end. It could also be to do with a friendship ending or cutting off a family member, but it's something I feel like you were desperately investing your energy in to make it better and to up-level it in some way. But the more you did that, the more you felt depleted in yourself. And now it feels like you've come to this place where you deny yourself some of these opportunities for growth altogether, because last time it took all your energy, last time it left you on the brink of collapse, last time it had you feeling like, what's the point? Because I've thrown all of my goodness, I've thrown all of what I have to offer into this situation, and I've still been left betrayed. This person has still stabbed me in the back, or this job has still left me absolutely exhausted. What am I getting back from it? It feels like this situation has just understandably left you with a lot of trust issues surrounding what else life has in store for you, because thus far it doesn't seem as though you've been shown the goodness that you have given. And so maybe you have internalized this idea that you are therefore somehow not deserving of good. And then, as a coping mechanism to create a sense of safety, you approach these situations or other people or these external factors with this sense of suspicion and distrust, and you go in expecting the worst. Because again, that way nobody can disappoint you. And your higher self wants you to know that that is completely understandable if what you have experienced so far is disappointment. But what I do want to say, and I really, really don't want this to come across as victim blaming in any way, if you were placed in a situation where you were a victim of something, or in a situation where you were mistreated, that is not your fault, and it's not because you attracted that, and I would never want you to feel that way. But what I will say is, if we always go into situations looking for the bad, then we are going to see the bad. Like, that's just a fact, because that's what we are looking for. It's confirmation bias. And I think what your higher self wants you to know is that they understand that essentially this distrust and this expecting the worst of people was a reaction to a time when actually you did give people the benefit of the doubt and you expected the best from people, and you got hurt. Those people betrayed you, or those people disappointed you. And your higher self is glad that you have established boundaries and that you have this sort of built-in vibe checker where you can clock people's intentions when you encounter them. And a lot of this is a skill you have cultivated due to this past hurt. So it's like, maybe when you encounter people and they act in a way that is disappointing to you, you're like, yeah, I figured, like, I sussed this person out already. And whilst that's a skill, it could be that when you are approached by people with more genuine or pure intentions, automatically you are suspicious of that. You are like, oh, well, what's the catch here? Like, what do they really want from me? Because this is what I have been shown prior. So a part of you isn't believing that you can receive better treatment. So maybe you distance yourself from opportunities to connect with others based on this notion that they are just going to end up hurting you, and even if it seems good, it is too good to be true, or it won't last, or you believe in that this person is just putting a mask on until they are able to get what they want from you, and then they are going to disappoint you or hurt you or abandon you or backstab you like other people have in the past. It's like when you encounter a good thing, sometimes it can feel completely alien to you. It can feel scary, and it can make you want to retreat to your comfort zone of kind of saying like, well, I'm not even going to give this a chance because I don't truly feel that this can last. Like, this person must be putting on an act, or this job seems too good to be true. It is going to end up leaving me disappointed like all the other things have in my life. So I'm just going to opt out. I'm just not going to give it the opportunity to grow. I'm just going to pretend I don't want this, is what I'm feeling. So some of you, due to this situation that has ended, due to this heartbreak, you've been through that, you've come out of it, and it's maybe led to this sense of hyper independence. But for some of you, I think you're not wanting to admit that actually you do want to connect with other people and you do want more for yourself. I think you have created this stable and safe life. Some of you are so scared of putting yourself out there when it comes to something, and you have so much self-doubt that maybe you're self-sabotaging and you're holding your own self back because you're worried about the potential disappointment if it doesn't go right. And I think you're worried about something being unrequited here. And I think your higher self needs you to believe that what you are wanting wants you back. What you desire desires you. So this could even be in relation to a creative project you are wanting to put out there. This could just be to do with your own self-doubt in terms of what you are capable of, and feeling like, you know, if I put something out here, I am just going to be disappointed by the outcome. So what's the point in trying? I am just going to stay in my zone. I am just going to stick to what feels safe and comfortable because I cannot cope with the disappointment that this could bring. I think your higher self wants you to know that some of you are clinging to a mundane life when you could have an absolutely incredible one. But that incredible life is on the other side of fear. And this situation you might be in right now, it might feel like the safest option in the moment, but ultimately, if you are not fulfilled and you know you want more for yourself, I think your higher self wants you to know that you are very much capable of getting everything you desire. Nothing is off limits to you. It does just feel like you've been through this situation where you were deeply disappointed and hurt by somebody or something. And at one stage, you put your all into it. You tried to give this thing the benefit of the doubt. You tried to believe that if you put enough of your love into it, then this thing would come out shining. It would eventually work. It would get you to where you wanted to be. You tried to pave over the cracks. But in the end, something happened where you could no longer ignore how much this situation was taking from you and how much this was disappointing you. It was like this final nail in the coffin. This thing had to come to an end. You realize this thing wasn't aligning with you. And I'm almost getting this really big sense of frustration with that, because it's like you were wanting to say to this thing, like, I gave you everything, I put my all into you. Why can't you just level up? Why did you have to do this? Why did you have to disappoint me like this? Why did we have to come to this place? Why has this outcome happened? Because a part of you felt like you had to bring this thing to your level in order for you to shine. Maybe you felt like you couldn't shine without this thing, like it was an integral part of you at one point or another. Maybe you felt like this was the thing making you good, when it was never about this external thing. It was always about you. You never needed this other thing to shine or to give you status, because it's always been about your inherent goodness. It could have felt like at certain points this thing was occupying so much space in your brain that you didn't have time to invest in yourself, because you always had to deal with whatever was going on in this situation. You always had to, I'm getting clean up after this person's messes. Obviously, that might apply if it is about another person, but it could be, you always had to attend to this work chaos, or you always had to drop your needs and be there at the drop of the hat to cater to this external influence. Because maybe at one point you had this belief of like, well, if I just keep doing this, if I am there when this person needs me, or if I drop everything for this job, then eventually things will come good. Then I will feel fulfilled, then we will be happy, then we will be at this higher level. When really it was just depleting more and more of you and taking your level down. It was making you lesser than. And yeah, maybe it was uplifting this other thing a little bit, but that could never be maintained. This is maybe making me think of like somebody else's mental health struggles, making it so that you couldn't prioritize your own mental health or something like that. It's making me think of you always having to be there and nurture and comfort someone, or something being like one crisis after the next. And it's like every time you would help this person come to terms with what they were feeling, it took more and more of your energy, and it might have made things better for a while. Maybe you could change this person's mood for a while, but it was never long lasting. It was never enough to create like consistent change, because maybe this person would always fall back into old patterns, or like the job would always get stressful again. It's something like you paddling really hard to try and keep yourself above water, but then this thing or this person dragging you back down under, making you feel as though you couldn't stay afloat or that you were drowning in this situation. It would always go back to that, to the point where each time when you rose to the surface, it made it more and more difficult to catch your breath. And maybe you said to yourself, like, we'll get to shore eventually, we will get there, we will be okay. But then you ended up in a situation where you could no longer deny that this thing was dragging you down. This person or this external factor disappointed you in such a way where it just left you like, I put my everything into this and I cannot do this again. Like, this is the final nail in the coffin. This has to be over with. But it also left you feeling very done. I want to say just done with trying anything like that again. So maybe after that, you didn't want to try investing in other relationships. You didn't want to work as hard on your projects or on your careers, because you felt like you got nothing back from this situation despite trying to juggle everything and trying to put your everything into it. You could have at one point been so invested in a particular way that you wanted your life to go that when your plans got cancelled, when things didn't go the way they were meant to, you decided to, I don't want to say almost opt out of life, because you're very much living, and a lot of you, it feels like you've cultivated this sense of independence. So I'm not saying like you're unhappy with where you are necessarily, but I think there's this sense of like, that there are certain things that you're maybe repressing. You're not fully living truthfully, because I think if you were to be truthful with yourself, you would acknowledge that you want more for yourself, but you're a little bit frightened when it comes to taking action and making decisions and putting yourself out there because of this lack of trust that things can go truly right for you. And I think your higher self wants you to know that so much is waiting for you on this other side of fear. Things aren't always going to end up badly. And I'm also getting, and I don't know why I'm getting this, but if any of you were keeping up to date with the Ethan Slater, Ariana Grande mess, I just want to say mess, like that's all I'm going to say on that. If you read the essay that Ethan's ex wrote, there was a quote in that, and it's coming through on this reading, so I'm going to try and read out that quote for you because I think some of you need to hear it. That is what your higher self is pointing out to me at this time. So she says in the essay, I can say with both personal and professional authority, I think she's a psychiatrist or something. She says, you are so much stronger than you assume. Some of what you loved most about your partner was actually your own goodness reflected back to you. It's yours to keep and carry forward. And I just think that's an absolutely beautiful quote that highlights how our inherent goodness and our inherent value can never ever be taken away from us. And a lot of what you thought you loved initially about the people around you, a lot of what you appreciated in them has actually all along been a part of you. And just because, this particular situation has ended or you didn't get out of it what you thought you would get, does not mean that you are not deserving of all the wonderful, beautiful opportunities that you deserve, because you very much are. Your higher self wants you to know that. Some of you could be very frightened of getting hurt because you are looking back at this other situation, whether it's a relationship or a job or whatever, and you are feeling like this situation defined you and you are giving too much credit to the job or the other person for making you who you are. And you are saying like, oh, well, we had some good times. Like, I was good when I was with them. I was doing really, really well. I felt successful. I felt this. And you are not giving yourself anywhere near enough credit for making yourself that way. I think your higher self wants you to know that if you were to nurture yourself and give yourself some of what you have given other people and other situations, you will be so surprised by the level of growth that you could achieve. I think your higher self really wants you to take the time to look after yourself and not always be prioritizing other people and putting people first 24/7 at the expense of your own needs and your own self-care. I think your higher self wants you to know that the fulfillment you were looking for outside of yourself was within you all along. The solid foundation that you were looking for had to first and foremost start with you, and I definitely think that's something that you have been realizing. But now you could be in this place of kind of saying, well, if I were to go out of my comfort zone and if I were to accept a date with somebody I'm romantically interested in, but I'm denying that I'm romantically interested in them, or if I were to go for this different job, then I'm going to encounter the same level of stress and disappointment as last time. Like, in the end, this person is just going to end up betraying me, and I'm just going to have to keep lifting this other person up, and I do not want that burden. It was too much last time, and I don't want to deal with that again. But I think what your higher self wants you to know is with the right person, you will not have to spend that level of time and energy trying to lift them up and trying to get them to be better, because they will automatically meet you where you're at. They will be in alignment with you and they will be better. The problem last time could have come from the fact that maybe you were forcing a situation to work when this person or this situation was continually showing you that they were not willing to give you anything back in return. But maybe you have internalized some of that as like, oh, all jobs are completely stressful and will drain the life out of you, or all relationships will in the end leave me lacking or leave me disappointed. And that is just so not the truth. And I think your higher self wants you to know that. Again, I keep getting this message of like, your higher self wants you to know that everything you could ever want, you could have. And they want you to feel empowered knowing that you always have a choice here. Like, if you're saying to yourself, I don't want to go on this date, because I don't want to end up in a situation like last time where I am bending over backwards to try and see the good qualities in this person when they are not giving me anything to make me think they are good for me. Then this is saying you have a choice in that. Like, if you don't want to do that, then don't do it. But this is saying assume the best in people until they show you otherwise, until they do something. And then when they do that something, you don't have to cling on to that situation the way you did with maybe previous situations. You can decide, like, well, here are my boundaries. If you are going against my boundaries, if you're not respecting me, then you're gone, because you are in that place now. You have done that work where you have cultivated this sense of independence. And you're not going to put up with some of the things that you put up with in the past. But not all situations, not all relationships will result in that. I think that's what your higher self wants you to know. And if you are desiring something more solid and something more stable, if you see a future where you can create a happy family with another person, or in terms of like job stability, in terms of your dream career, whichever applies, because we don't all want the same things. Some of us want marriage and kids, some of us want a partner and animals, some of us want to be independent and we want to work on our own success and have a career. Some of us want multiple of those things or a mishmash, but it doesn't matter. And if you want something traditional, only accept being treated in a way that aligns with that. And when I say traditional, I don't mean in a toxic way or anything like that, but I just mean, let's say you are a feminine and you are going into dating with the mentality of like, no man is going to treat me well, no man is going to hold my door open for me, or whatever the case may be. No man is going to be in this energy of like being a gentleman. Then what this is saying is don't accept anything less. Okay, if they're not treating you like a gentleman and you want that, then don't accept that. Like, you have a choice. If they're not showing up like that, don't go on the date with them. Don't invest in them if you are not feeling like that is in alignment with you. I think this is saying treat yourself the very best and only expect the very best treatment, and make it clear that anything less will not be tolerated. And if that means staying in your lane until something great comes along, then do that. But when the something great comes along, be ready to accept it and be willing to not automatically assume that there are ulterior motives to this great thing that has come into your life. Don't always automatically assume that this comes with an expiry date, or that, you know, this is going to end badly, because that is not the case all of the time. That is something your higher self really, really keeps saying. I don't know why, but something about Queen of the Damned is coming through. I think it's this Empress card. So maybe Alea is relevant for somebody here. But yeah, I think your higher self wants you to feel reassured that if you have been praying to come across a situation that is truly aligned with you, whether it be a new friend or a new romantic interest or a new direction you would like your career to go in or a new project, that can absolutely be a reality for you. You can absolutely reach a place where a new thing like that can go above and beyond and can actually exceed your expectations. If you have been praying for something like that, your higher self wants you to know that it is out there for you. Something that matches your energy, something that meets you where you're at, something that is in alignment with you. But it has to start with you being willing to accept those things into your life and to not self-sabotage and not hold yourself back when it comes to accepting those good things. So that is what I'm getting for the tarot portion of your reading, pal 2. I really, really hope you enjoyed this reading today. If you did like the reading, please don't forget to like the video. Please don't forget to comment. Let me know what resonated, or just let me know which pal you picked if you don't feel comfortable letting me know what resonated. All of that helps me. It's the easiest and best way to support this channel. If you haven't subbed, please consider subscribing. That is another amazing way to help me and this channel. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for being here. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Hi Pal 3 Collective. If you chose Pal 3 and you chose the white snake, you are in the correct place. Welcome to your reading, friends. So this reading is basically asking, what do you need to know right now? What do you need to hear? And what does your higher self want to tell you? So if you've been struggling to get this new era of your life started, or if you are in that energy of making changes and you could just do with a little bit of a boost from an enlightened being, this is the reading for you, because we are connecting with your higher self today. So this is a channeled message from your higher self, here to give you a talking to, give you a little bit of a pep talk and hype you up if you need it. If you would like a full reading breakdown, then please check out my introduction. I go through absolutely everything there. But we are going to start this reading by looking at this oracle card. and that will be your energy check. So in the energy check, we're going to be looking at what your higher self would like to bring to your attention most right now. So this could be something you've been struggling with, something you are working to improve, or something you're hoping to prioritize more in 2025 or whenever it is that you're watching, because the reading is absolutely timeless. This reading is for you at any point when you are hoping to make changes in your life. We are then going to be moving on to the tarot portion, and we're going to be doing a deeper dive on some of that energy. We are going to be using the Modern Witch Tarot today. Now, I have shuffled the deck, but I am going to be pulling the cards on camera because I know some of you guys connect better with the decks that way. Although I will probably speed that section up, but it's there if you want to watch it. You don't have to. So, usual disclaimers, it's a collective reading, and not every single detail or example is going to resonate for you, nor would I expect it to. So please take what's for you and leave the rest for somebody else. If you do not identify some aspect of yourself within the energy check, I would encourage you to choose a different pile. You are also welcome to choose more than one if more than one is calling to you. And if you would like multiple pep talks, please know that the energies are never set in stone and you do not have to accept anything as your story. If it isn't, you are the creator of your reality. I am literally just the messenger. If the reading is at any point becoming more harmful to you than it is helpful, please disengage from the reading if that is going to be in your best interest. If you like the reading, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. That is the best and easiest way to support me. I appreciate you guys listening. I really appreciate you being here. I did a long soppy thank you in the intro, but if you don't want to listen to all of that again, let's just get started by looking at your oracle card today. So I'm going to pop your snake just here, and then let's have a look at what we pulled for you, pile 3. We have got turn criticism into kindness. So your higher self could be indicating here, pile 3, that you are currently, or you have in the past, dealt with having a very harsh inner critic. This could have been an issue that you have encountered throughout your life. And for some of you, it actually could be to the point where you don't necessarily always notice when you are directing negativity towards yourself, or maybe implementing some self-limiting beliefs, because these criticisms have just become such a part of your routine. And this voice might have been such a constant for you that you don't necessarily even notice when it's there anymore, because it feels like an intrinsic aspect of your inner narrative to some degree. And I definitely think, this didn't come from nowhere. You could have grown up in an environment that led to you having the belief that things could go wrong at any moment. Or maybe you had somebody who was that harsh voice that you have now internalized and adopted as your own because it's just what you were surrounded by at a certain phase in your life. So you've taken this on as normal, and you don't necessarily realize all the time that some of these thoughts directed towards yourself, being overly critical or overly harsh when it comes to judging yourself, having high expectations of yourself, your higher self is saying, like, this is actually less normal than you think, and it is possible to shift this, it is possible to change this, and that could be something that you are doing. You could be working on actively being kinder towards yourself. I definitely feel like your higher self is telling you to be kinder to yourself, to be more gentle, to talk to yourself as you would a friend. And I know that it's easy to say that, and it is a lot harder to implement it. So this isn't a one and done process. But if you have been trying to sort of interject those more negative thoughts before they take root in your brain and before they start to grow legs and kind of get carried away with themselves, I think your higher self wants to say that they are so proud of you for doing that, because that's not easy, especially when you have maybe grown up around somebody criticizing you or judging you, or always worrying about negative outcomes when it comes to things. There is like a tiny little bit of overlap with pile 2. In pile 2, we did talk about when you assume the worst in people, when you go looking for the bad in people, then you are going to see the bad. And I think there's a kind of message here about you sometimes overthinking because you expect the worst case scenario to happen, or when you're planning for something, it's like you think of every possible outcome, every eventuality, when a lot of these things are so unlikely to happen. But I think that has been influenced by something from your past, and maybe this is a way of being that has made you feel safe in your past. But maybe sometimes it can stop you enjoying the moment and living in the present, because you're so wrapped up in the what if this happens, and what if I do that and this happens, and 9 out of 10 times it's not going to happen the way you think it's going to happen. So you spend a lot of unnecessary energy getting worked up, preparing for what you feel is the inevitable. And sometimes you're saying to yourself that you're being realistic, but sometimes it's actually more of a pessimistic outlook because you often sway towards believing more of the negative consequences than you do with the potential positive outcomes. So it's like you're saying to yourself, what if I was on this train and it blew up? Instead of like the far more likely positive outcome of like, what if I was on this train and I got to my destination on time and I had a really good time? Okay, maybe that one isn't that realistic because I know a lot of trains run really, really late, so maybe the on time was a bit of a stretch. But what I'm saying is it's far more likely that eventually you are going to get to your destination on that train, unless it gets cancelled, which happens, and maybe that's something that, you would worry about if you were planning to get on a train and go somewhere. But 9 times out of 10, you are going to find a way, cancelled train or not, to get to your destination and you're going to have a good time. And it is far, far, far less likely that that train is going to blow up. But it's like you sometimes go down thought loops and rabbit holes and spirals about the possibilities of what could go wrong instead of focusing on what could go right. And a part of this mentality, I think, is to do with the way you talk to yourself. And you may be feeling like you're undeserving of certain good things to happen to you, which just is not the truth. And I think your higher self wants you to know that. And I feel like a lot of you would never, ever, ever talk to your friends or someone you love the way you speak about yourself. And I think that's something your higher self wants you to remember. It feels as though you are overly harsh on yourself. And I think your higher self is saying that this is with good reason, as in, maybe you were brought up to feel this way, to be this harsh on yourself, to be this critical, to overthink all of these things. But you can change it now. And it's not easy, but this negative narrator, this internal voice that says these not very nice things to you some of the time, you can intercept it. You don't have to let it run rampant. You don't have to let it rule your life, is I think what they're saying. And I do think they want to tell you as well that being kind to yourself, it's an active practice. It takes work, and it also takes active work and perseverance to banish the negative voices and the criticism, especially when you have been so used to living with these thoughts for so long, and it becomes just a part of your everyday reality. You're not necessarily conscious that you're thinking this way until you actively have to take notice of the times when you are slipping into those patterns, and then you have to interject it and say no. And that can be when your brain is telling you, oh, you want to start this project, you want to put yourself out there, but what if you're not good enough? What if everyone laughs at you? What if this happens? It's about stopping that before it gets a chance to run riot and go feral, essentially. I think your higher self really wants you to start believing new truths about yourself, especially if you are rejection sensitive or you are sensitive to criticism because of what you dealt with. But I think more than anything, you would be surprised by the reactions you get from people if you did put yourself out there in a significant way. Like if you released a project, if you have something you would like to do and you would like to show the world, you could be holding back on that because of those fears of what if, what if people don't like it? What if this? What if I'm just really bad at this? And I think your higher self wants to deliver new truths to you. And these new truths could center around, well, alternatively, what if I'm better at this than anyone who came before me? What if I make friends with people through this? What if I gain support? What if I can monetize this? What if this grows into something really, really good? It's important to keep grounded in reality, but it's also important to give yourself the opportunity to dream. I think that's what your higher self is wanting to say to you, Pal 3. There's something about you finding power in knowing like nobody could ever be harsher to you than you are to yourself. And that is not saying it is a good thing to be harsh to yourself, but I think you have internalized some of how you feel about yourself as objective truths, and these might be some of the more negative things, like, oh, I'm not qualified to do this, or I could never do this. Maybe doubting your own capability, dealing with a lot of insecurities surrounding that. But I think your higher self is asking, if it's so easy for you to accept the bad things, then they want to make it just as easy for you to accept the good things. And I think something that might actually be really, really helpful for you, Pal 3, if you are struggling to see your own worth, or if you are struggling to say your affirmations because maybe you try to put pen to paper and you don't know what to say, because maybe you can't view yourself in that way right now, if you are still struggling with a lack of confidence, a good thing to do would be to ask the people in your life who love you and respect you what their favourite things are about you. And I think you would be really, really surprised by the responses. And this isn't necessarily, to rely on validation from other people. That is something I usually discourage. I think when we become reliant on it, we shouldn't take people's opinions as fact. But I think you have spent far too long taking the negative opinions as fact. So it would also be good to adopt some of those positives, because I think the people who love you have a lot of really, really kind things to say about you. And I think they would be really surprised and quite disheartened if they knew you were saying some of the things about yourself that you do say, because I think a lot of people around you really don't see you in the same light you see yourself. I think your higher self is saying you have no idea what else you're capable of. So I think your higher self really wants you to prioritize reframing your thoughts and defining your sense of self and what you would like your narrative to be, because it can really be anything, and it's not necessarily what other people have told you about yourself. You get to decide which aspects are true. And I think with this imagery on the card, this is making me think of like a merging between your shadow self and your higher self. I think this is about the higher self nurturing that shadow, the darker aspects of yourself. So it's not rewriting your narrative in the sense of being like, I am amazing, I'm wonderful, and I do not need to do any more work on myself, because all of us are an ongoing work in progress. We should always be growing and changing and evolving. But I think this is about saying, me having shadow aspects, me having certain patterns of behaviour that I'm not happy with and that I would like to change, does not make me an awful, terrible person. And it does not mean that I am any less worthy of being loved and adding value to society, to the world, to the people around me. Like, two things can be true at once. You are allowed to have a light side and a shadow side at the same time, and we all have. It doesn't make you a bad person. Some of you could identify with being mixed, like a mixed ethnicity or culture, or some part of your identity feels like a mix. And I don't want to speak on top of anybody else's experience, but I know often I've heard commentary from people who do identify as mixed. Like, if they have a white parent and a black parent, I've heard that there can be an issue of not feeling like black enough for the black community, but not feeling white enough to the white community. And take that as it resonates. It won't be that specific thing for you. That's just something I've heard when other people have spoken about their experiences as a mixed person. It could also be something like pansexuality or bisexuality, like not being straight enough but not being gay enough. That's what this kind of thing reminds me of. There could be some struggle with like a slight loss of identity or an inability to find belonging due to that. So I think this is about you sort of coming home to yourself and the light side and the shadow side working in harmony, you finding a way to acknowledge both of those aspects about yourself without being overly harsh towards yourself due to those aspects. Okay, so this is voiceover Nosy Witch coming in with a little bit of an edit, because as I was editing your pile, I realised that there was a word that I just couldn't quite grasp as I was doing your reading. But as I was doing the editing, it just kept popping into my head, and I felt the need to mention it because I feel like it is kind of a word that defines what we were talking about. And that word is catastrophizing, and it's also in relation to like black and white thinking or all or nothing thinking, if that is something that you have struggled with at Pile 3. And also there was something coming up about, and I think I did mention this in the reading actually, but rejection sensitivity. Some of you could really struggle with rejection sensitive dysphoria, which is an extreme reaction to perceived rejection or perceived criticism, and that could be something that you are really trying to battle. You are maybe trying to take people's words towards you more in a kind way than automatically internalizing them negatively. I know rejection sensitive dysphoria can be really, really common with things like neurodivergence, and that doesn't have to apply to you, but if you are diagnosed with ADHD or anything like that, or if you are autistic, this could apply. It could also apply to things like BPD and bipolar. That's not an exhaustive list, but if you know that you are diagnosed with any of those things, then this could apply to you, and this could be something you have always struggled with, and maybe in the past it has made you feel like too sensitive, like the world is too harsh for you, it's an unkind place to be, or something like that. And I know that sometimes the world can be an unkind place to be, But I really feel like what your higher self was trying to push out of me, and I couldn't quite get there during the reading, but what it was trying to push me to say is that you have been really, really working hard on transmuting some of that energy and turning it into kindness towards yourself, and also taking constructive criticism instead of assuming that, oh, because this person doesn't like this one thing that I do, then they are unkind, or that means that they hate me, or that means that I am a bad person. You are recognizing that those things are not true. Some of you could have a tendency to think like a bad day will be the end of you, or a bad day means that everything is ruined. And a lot of this, and if you haven't got to this stage of the reading yet, I do talk about this later in the reading, but a lot of this could be to do with elements of perfectionism or you wanting to fix things. But sometimes in the process of that, it's like you want to force things to be perfect instead of giving them the time and space to rectify themselves and allow things to flow more naturally to you. So this can be in relation to many different opportunities. And later the reading kind of focused on creative projects and how, like, if you're churning out content and pumping out work, it's like you're trying to force a certain outcome to happen and you're working on making it perfect instead of just leaning into more of your creative flow and allowing things to progress naturally. But the same could apply to certain relationships in your life. So for example, if you are in a romantic relationship and your partner is having a bad day and you feel as though maybe they are replying in a really short way with you. And I think there's something to be said here about intuition. Obviously, if your partner is communicating with you in a way that you are unhappy with on a consistent basis and you're not getting what you need from that relationship to feel safe and secure, then that is valid and that is absolutely something you should discuss with your partner or your friend, whoever you are having this conversation with. But sometimes I think you guys, maybe because of things you've been shown in the past or rejection you have perceived in the past, you could have the tendency to catastrophize at those moments, because let's say your partner is giving you these short replies because they are having a bad day. Some of you could immediately jump to like, the relationship is going downhill, like this relationship is bad now, like this is going to end, this person is going to break up with me, this is going to happen. And in actuality, it could be the case that they are just having a bad day and it's nothing to do with you. And there's also maybe nothing you can do to fix it in that moment. So instead of like trying to force yourself into being the absolute most perfect partner that you could be and denying your own emotions and living in an unauthentic version of you by, maybe trying to maintain a really smiley, over the top enthusiastic pretense and, trying to fix this person's emotional difficulties for them, you could take a step back and just focus on your own project instead of ruminating over what this person is doing. And then you could find by the end of the day that this person has fixed their own mood, because that is their responsibility. And they might come to you and be completely normal again and say like, oh, I'm really sorry if I was a bit short with you. I was in a terrible mood and it was because of this completely unrelated external thing. And the relationship could be back on track again before you know it, without you necessarily having to do anything to force that to happen. And obviously, if somebody being short with you is a trigger point for you, I think it's also about using that as an opportunity to have a conversation with your partner or with your friend, so that next time that comes up in your relationship or in an interaction, you can identify with that other person what they could do to make you feel safe in those moments where maybe they are having a difficult day emotionally. You could talk about ways that allow you to feel safe in those moments and to lessen the chance of that rumination happening. So maybe this could be asking for reassurance of like, when your partner is in a bad mood, maybe your partner or your friend could say to you, oh, just so you know, I'm having a bit of a bad day. It's nothing to do with you. We are all good. This relationship is fine. And I will talk to you properly later when I am out of this bad mood. And that might allow you to, not overthink and not catastrophize and not immediately think that, oh, they don't like me anymore. Oh, they must hate me. Oh, it must be something that I've done. So that in turn is an opportunity for that relationship to grow and develop and to become better. And I think your higher self is encouraging you to see more things in that way. And the same for if somebody you are talking to identifies something that they are not happy with in a relationship, or they try to set a boundary with you. Maybe in the past you have sabotaged certain relationships because when somebody has tried to bring something up that they are unhappy with, maybe you have immediately jumped to like, oh, well, I guess I'm not good enough for you, or I guess you don't want to be with me anymore. And in that, maybe you have denied yourself the opportunity to actually enhance a relationship, to make it stronger. Because maybe due to past trauma, you internalize all criticism as I am not worthy, or I am not loved, or I am not valued by this person, when in actuality, some of the time, this could have just been somebody trying to have an open conversation with you and trying to talk about where they were coming from. And maybe they actually wanted things to become better between the two of you, to strengthen things. They weren't saying that they didn't want to be with you. They weren't saying that you were bad. They were just saying there's this one tiny aspect of this relationship or friendship or whatever that I didn't like. Can we talk about this? So I think your higher self is saying, like, don't deny yourself the opportunity to grow with people in your life. And a bad day doesn't have to mean a bad life, essentially. And it doesn't have to be all black or white. Just because somebody says they don't like one thing that you do doesn't mean that the relationship is all bad, or that they hate you, or that things are going terribly. And it could be the same thing even in terms of your personal life. It doesn't matter whether it's a relationship or career, or just in terms of you as a person. This could even be the case with things like health. Maybe a lot of you tend to spiral when there is something wrong with you. Maybe some of you can be hypochondriacs some of the time. I'm not saying that's the case for all of you, and obviously if you do have certain symptoms or issues, then definitely get that checked out. But some of you could sort of type your symptoms in and you're like, right, that's it, I have a brain tumour, or I have a terminal illness, like it's all downhill from here, I might as well start planning my funeral. And maybe all it is that you have like a vitamin deficiency or something. And I'm not trying to undermine you, like, but I'm just saying there's many other things it could be other than like the worst case scenario. And if it is something as simple as a vitamin deficiency or something like that, then that could be a learning experience for you, because next time you're like, okay, when I start feeling that way, you know, it's time to take my vitamin D, or it's time to take my vitamin B12. It's not the end of the world, but when I'm getting like this is what I need to do to start looking after myself. And then I know this is an opportunity for me to start feeling so much better, and for things to get back on track naturally, instead of always assuming that it's going to be the worst ever outcome. So I think that is what I wanted to say to you, Pal 3. Okay, voiceover done. Thank you, bye. So that is what we are getting for the oracle portion of your reading, Pal 3. I really hope you are enjoying the reading so far. We are about to move on to the tarot, so please bear with me and we will get started with that. Hi, Pal 3 Collective. Welcome to the tarot portion of your reading. So we are going to be connecting with your higher self and discussing some of the things we discussed throughout your oracle reading today. I am going to pull some cards for you right now. By the way, I'm probably going to speed this section of the video up as I'm pulling the cards, just so you know. I just wanted you to be able to see this portion so that you could really connect with the pile. So we did have a little look at what your higher self wanted to bring to your attention right now, and we're basically just going to be doing a deeper dive on this, and we're going to get some advice for you. This is going to be your little pep talk from your higher self. So yeah, let's have a look at what we pulled for you, Pal 3. So we have got the 8 of Pentacles, and your clarifier is the 7 of Pentacles. We have got the Sun, and we have got the Knight of Wands as the clarifier for that. We have got the Ace of Pentacles and the Devil in reverse as the clarifier, and we have got the Ace of Wands in reverse and the Queen of Wands upright as the clarifier. Okay, Pal 3, we have some really beautiful and positive cards here, and the message that's coming through is actually more of a straightforward one than I thought it would be. I don't actually think you've come to this reading today necessarily because you're in need of a huge truth bomb or anything like that. Of course, I do like to pepper my readings with a little bit of tough love, especially, you know, when your higher self is coming through to give you a much needed pep talk. But I feel like more than anything, you are here for reassurance today that maybe you are on the right track. Because I feel like a lot of you guys have done a great deal of work when it comes to banishing the negative thoughts that are trying to creep into your mind. So if you guys do struggle with things like intrusive thoughts or a lot of anxiety and overthinking, you have done a lot to really, really cultivate a safer space in your head for yourself. And your higher self is so incredibly proud of you for that. They commend you for that because they know that that hasn't been easy. And this is a lifelong journey, especially when you struggle with anxiety or anything like that. And for some people, yeah, I guess like anxiety can be more situational. Like if somebody gets anxiety due to a particularly stressful work situation that they are in, maybe that anxiety does subside once they change the external environment and once they, start a new job or something like that. I appreciate that, that is the case for some people and not everyone's anxiety is just something they have to deal with. But for a lot of us, I think we have accepted that we might have to battle anxiety on and off throughout our lives, but we don't have to let those thoughts become a permanent fixture of how we define ourselves and who we are. And I think that is something you've really, really been working on, Pal 3. And I feel like your higher self wants to give you this reassurance that yes, what you're working on is the right thing and it will be a success, even if you have hit a snag in the road. And I say that because some of you, and I think if this hasn't happened yet, it will happen very, very soon, but it feels like some of you are on the right track where you found something you're really, really passionate about. You found an area that you shine or excel in, and you have been feeling extremely passionate and fired up about this. It has got you pumped up and you have been putting the work in. You have been grafting, you have been wanting to commit a lot of time and energy to this thing. But I think you have at times struggled with those familiar feelings of self-doubt creeping up and kind of taking over your day at times. So it won't be this exact example for you, but the kind of thing that I'm thinking of is, let's say you start a course, you go back into education, you go back to college, or you decide to do a PhD or a master's or something like that in a particular subject. It could be that you go and study this course and it's something you're really, really passionate about and you're like, I found my life purpose. This is it. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm going towards. And you approach it all guns blazing. You throw everything into it. And maybe this is something you get some positive feedback on. Like maybe you do your first couple of essays in this subject and they get really good marks. But then maybe later in the term, things get a little bit harder. Maybe there's a specific test you do and you don't do as well in that test, or it feels like you have to put a little bit more effort into this thing you're doing, or you do put a lot of effort into it and it doesn't get the kind of feedback that you would like. And so in that situation, you might get those familiar insecurities creeping back up instead of just putting it down to like a bad day. So for example, maybe you did that test when you were really ill or you were really tired and you didn't have as much time to study. Instead of saying like, oh, well, I understand why I didn't do as well at that test at this time, but next time I will do better. You can sometimes get carried away in these thought loops saying to yourself, oh, well, clearly I'm not smart enough to pass the test, or maybe this isn't the right course for me, or I can't do anything right, or I guess I failed at this. And I think your higher self here is really encouraging you to use this as a learning opportunity and to not dismiss all the hard work you've done. Because yes, maybe you didn't get the grades you wanted this one time, but what about all the other times where you got the best grades in the class? What about the times when you got some really wonderful positive feedback? And it doesn't have to be that example of education or of school. It doesn't have to be that kind of environment. But it's something where you're trying to power through really, really hard because you don't want to give the negative self-talk time to come and occupy the space in your brain. I'm hearing something about you having unbound yourself. And I think your higher self is saying that you have unburdened yourself from some of these self-limiting beliefs. And you have been taking initiative to really take action and take charge in your own life. And I think your higher self is really, really, really proud of you for that, because they know that it has taken you overcoming a lot of self-doubt to get to that place. So it feels like you have overcome that initial hurdle of like starting something because it's something that you're truly passionate about and something you're genuinely invested in. But sometimes one of those more negative voices will slip through, and occasionally it has you asking yourself, like, is this the right thing for me? Or what if I'm just wasting my time? What if I'm just wasting my potential? Because some of you maybe have wounds surrounding that. And it could be that, if you lacked confidence in the past and you didn't start projects because maybe you were waiting for like the perfect time. In fact, a lot of you, I am kind of getting a kind of perfectionist vibe. Like, I won't start it unless the first draft is absolutely perfect. A lot of you could struggle with procrastination and really getting going with things. There could be like a little bit of a sense of urgency with you in relation to this project because maybe you feel as though you've spent a long time delaying some of your potential opportunities for success. And now that you've kind of stepped up into more of an energy of taking action, it kind of feels like you're trying to do it all at once and you're trying to really push it forward and propel yourself. And your higher self is very much proud of you for finding that passion again and for going after what you want. I think they're happy to see that you're fired up about something, but at the same time, I think they're saying, like, don't make it about the external validation, like, do it for the passion. Because some of you, because you have been pushing with this thing so hard, it's kind of been feeling as though it's becoming more of an obligation. And maybe you're starting to feel like you've lost some of that initial spark that you started with because maybe you are not seeing immediate results. And when you aren't seeing those results, it's hard to find the motivation to continue with that same passion. It won't be this example for you, but this is making me think of, if you're any kind of content creator or something like that, it's like you finally getting the courage to put a video out there and maybe the video blows up and it goes viral and it does really well and you get loads of subscribers, you get loads of engagement on that video. You could put the next video up and maybe not get that. And then instead of thinking like, what kind of video do I want to create next? What is my soul calling me to create? It could be that you spend a lot of time replicating that first video to try and get the same outcome, even if that's not actually what you want to do or what you want to be spending your time on. So then it becomes more about the numbers and more about the analytics and more about getting views and subscribers than it does actually you throwing your entire heart and soul into a project. And before you know it, it's like you're constantly churning out content, trying to replicate those same results, and then getting disappointed and frustrated with yourself when you can't reach a certain milestone or get the same amount of views as that first video did. And then you internalizing that as like, oh, well, maybe I was like a one-trick pony, or maybe I'm just not good enough for this. Maybe, that was my 5 minutes of fame, like that was my viral moment, but maybe I'm washed up now or something like that. Like maybe that's all I have to offer. And your higher self really, really wants you to know that that is not the case at all. But they want you to be able to re-find your passion for this thing. And to do that, I think this is kind of about slowing down and allowing yourself space to create without expectations of what that creation could become, and without you necessarily tying your worth or the quality of your work to a particular material outcome, because that's not fair to yourself, and it's quite honestly insulting, your higher self wants to say, to your level of talent. And your higher self wants you to know that even if you start a project and it is what you might consider a flop in the sense of it doesn't get the most views or it doesn't get the best grade or whatever the case may be, that does not mean that you are in your flop era in any way. In fact, it's quite the opposite, because all of this is a learning opportunity for you. But you need to remember why you wanted to do this thing in the first place. And if it feels like you are experiencing creative blocks, it could be because you need to slow down and you need to take stock of the direction you would like to go in. Maybe you need to reassess what is important to you in relation to why you are carrying out this project. And your higher self is also telling you to stop berating yourself for not being able to do everything all in one go, or not being able to push past certain limitations. Even if this is to do with a creative project, like something you love, you still need to have a break from it from time to time. You need to go away from your creative station and give yourself a brain break and take stock of things and rest. If you feel as though things have become stale or predictable, or you've hit a plateau and you're lacking energy and enthusiasm because of that, I think this is your higher self calling you to keep going, but make sure you keep going whilst also finding time to give yourself rest and to prioritize breaks as needed. Because some of you have been pushing ahead at sort of full steam, and then And then somehow you still feel as though you are wasting time, or you're still saying like, but I'm still not where I want to be. And that can make you feel like you want to give up. You've occasionally felt like, should I just throw in the towel? Should I cut my losses? Because this isn't really getting me anywhere. Your rewards have been delayed. But I think this is your higher self saying you have not missed the opportunity. The opportunity hasn't passed you by. And every day where you get up and you take action is a cause for celebration. And it's an opportunity for you to learn, to recalibrate, to figure out what works, what doesn't work. And I feel like they also very much want to reassure you that this, whatever this is, it will lead to success. But you need to find your spark, not necessarily through external rewards, but through doing something that would make your inner child feel alive, and doing something that would make any version of you on any timeline proud. So living in a way that aligns with who you want to be and the mark you want to leave on the world. You need to rediscover your passion for this by asking, like, why did I want to do this in the first place? And when you are doing things out of that genuine love and passion, because it sets your soul on fire, because it gives you energy rather than taking away your energy, opportunities, and in particular material rewards with this Ace of Pentacles, will flow to you a lot more easily. And things will actually turn out way, way, way better than you expected. I think your higher self is saying, like, if you are putting anything out, make sure you are doing it for the right reasons for you, and nobody else gets to define what that is. And make sure it is something that you are truly proud of. This is about feeling full of energy and enthusiasm and confidence, no matter what other people are saying about what you are doing. And it's not feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm putting this video out here and it's only got like 5 views, so that must mean that I'm really bad at making videos and now I have to take it down, like now I'm embarrassed. You should feel like no matter if it gets 5 views or it gets 5,000 views, I am proud of this work. I am happy with what I put out there. I believe in this project. And it is that belief that is going to carry you forward. So I think this is your encouragement to keep minimizing those negative voices that are trying to play in your mind that tell you, you know, this can't be a success, or you are not going to be good enough at this, and to regain your excitement for whatever this thing is by focusing on your whys. I feel like your higher self wants you to know that things are happening behind the scenes here. They know that you have been working hard and you will eventually receive the results of this. You're growing something right now. None of what you've done thus far has been a waste. This is all a success in the making, and you are eventually going to see that. That is what your higher self is telling you. They know it has required some patience, and it might require a little bit more patience, but you will get there. Don't give up on your goals. Don't give up on your ideas. You will re-find your spark. You will get that motivation back when you focus on your whys. You will get the rewards, and I wouldn't be surprised if this was like a business idea or something like that you eventually were able to make a profit of, because we do have a number of pentacles showing up. But if it's not that, I think this is just something that is going to make you feel secure, in the sense that you're like, I am on the right path. I feel happiest when I'm doing this. I feel full of energy and optimism. I feel full of vitality when I am engaging with this. And this could apply to those of you where you feel like, I'm still at the beginning of my journey and you're not sure, like, should I invest in this wholeheartedly? Because maybe you have hit that little bit of a bump in the road where you are at a crossroads, you're questioning things, and you're like, you know, should I carry forward with this same thing, or should I cut my losses? Should I dip out of this? Should I do something different? So this could apply for those of you in the example where, like, you're studying something. Maybe you're in your first year and you have hit a little bit of a snag and you didn't get the best feedback on your last essay or something like that. And this could be you saying, like, do I do all 3 years of this? Because what if I'm not capable of it? What if I will never be good at this? What if I will never be a professional or a master? Like, what if I'm not smart enough to do this? All of these questions. And your higher self wants you to kind of transform that line of thinking into, okay, but on the other hand, what if I continue to work really hard and I ended up the best of the best at what I do? And your higher self is telling you that you will master this. You will cultivate a reputation of being the best of the best when it comes to this thing that you're working on. People will hear about you and they will flock to you because of this. This could be that you have a project that people hear about via word of mouth. It could be that people leave reviews on a product that you make or something like that, or a course that you make, maybe something that you sell. It could be a form of trade, because that's what the Eight of Pentacles often refers to. But it's like you could be sort of questioning yourself and saying like, oh, what if I'm not good enough to eventually be a third year? And you're saying like, oh, well, what if I'm not good enough to get my degree in this? And your higher self is kind of saying, well, not only are you going to get your degree, but you're also going to get your master's in this. You're also going to get your PhD in this. Like, it's a lot bigger than what you would expect, because you're more capable than what you think. And eventually you're kind of going to be revered. I'm getting the word revered. I don't even know if that's a word. You're going to be like held up as the standard when it comes to this thing, because of how much you put into it. And because you truly have the passion to fuel your ideas, you give it the attention to detail that it requires. You have that level of commitment and dedication, and your higher self is really, really proud of you for committing to yourself in that way, because, it hasn't been easy. And at times you have sort of wanted to throw in the towel and say like, oh, I can't do this. Like, maybe I'm not cut out for this. But you really, really are. You just need to have that confidence in yourself. And I promise people will come to you for your work. People will see that you've got the qualifications. And I keep hearing cream of the crop. Like, they will see that you are the cream of the crop when it comes to this. So not only could it potentially lead to financial security for you, but you are going to feel so much more energized and optimized and productive when you are doing this, because you will be feeling like, finally, I have found something that I love. Finally, I'm passionate about something. Finally, I know what my purpose is. Maybe you got trapped in kind of not knowing what that is for a while. Maybe somebody from your past told you that, you would never be able to do XYZ, or, people from where we come from don't do that. This could be an adult, a caregiver, or a teacher in your life telling you would not amount to something. And I think your higher self really wants you to continue letting go of this thing that they tried to perpetuate that just was not true, because it does not have to be your reality. And I feel like this is just that extra little bit of encouragement to continue creating your own reality, because that reality is going to turn out so, so beautiful. And it's going to turn out better than you could have imagined. I feel like your higher self is saying you are one day going to turn around, and you are going to be so, so glad that you never gave up on yourself, and that you believed in yourself, and you had the confidence to push past some of these doubts and go after what you want. You are going to be so, so thankful that you did that. And you're going to feel this huge sense of accomplishment when you start to see more of the rewards of your hard work that you've already done and that you are continuing to do. And I feel like if you are at the beginning of that journey, and you're thinking, I will always be a novice at this, or I'm not up to this person's level, or I should be further along. No, your higher self is saying you are right where you need to be. And yes, there has been delays, there has been disappointing news, but this has all been preparing you to go to that next level, go to that next phase of your life, and to be able to receive this abundance and receive this success. Because sometimes, if it all happens in one go, it can actually be really, really overwhelming. And I know it's frustrating if you are trying to reach a certain goal and it feels like you're being stopped. It feels like there's a barrier up, there's something you can't quite push past, and all you want is this one thing. All you want is to hit this milestone, and then you'll be happy. But I feel like your higher self is saying, like, happiness is an ongoing journey. You don't reach a destination ever where you're like, oh, I'm happy now, like, I'm satisfied, this is it. It is about enjoying the process and figuring out, what, like we said, why you wanted to do this to begin with, why you wanted to do this in the first place, because you had your reasons. You finally found something you were passionate about, so don't let anybody take that away from you. And trust that feeling. Trust that you were led here. I don't know why, but looking at this card, I'm hearing Flowers by Miley Cyrus. You could also have a cat, like you could have a black cat like this. And I also feel like this girl on Seven of Pentacles looks very similar to this young girl on the Sun card. So this could be saying, like, this grown-up version of you, this Seven of Pentacles, who you are becoming, it is going to make the little version of you so incredibly proud. And I feel like there's going to come a day where you'll be saying to yourself, like, look how far I've come. I never thought I could end up here, but I've done it. I'm at the top of my game. I've got the qualifications. I feel confident in the work that I do, in how I show up day to day. Like, I can do this, I've got this. And maybe you thought that you would never reach that place, but there will come a time where you do feel that way. But you do have to continue to create your own happiness along the way. And by staying in the present and to lean into those little pockets of happiness, you are going to feel so much more invigorated and excited doing what you're doing. Your higher self knows that you have had to be brave to do something, and they're asking you to please continue being brave and don't give up on yourself, because success is really just right around the corner for you. And maybe you wouldn't have been able to receive it had you got it all in one go. Some of you guys could listen to Chapel Rome, because this is making me think of how she got really, really famous really, really fast. And there's been a lot of talk about her saying she didn't know how to handle the fame and she wasn't sort of prepped the way that certain stars are. There could be something about that. Like, if you had received this all at once, you wouldn't have been ready for it. You could have got really overwhelmed. It could have been difficult for you to handle, but it has happened in this way for a reason, and it's so that you can shine most brightly and so that you have the time to really develop your skills and nurture them and take stock of the direction that you would like to go in the future when it comes to this. So yes, there could have been delays and disappointments along the way, but it has been for a reason, and I do truly believe it is leading to something better for you, Pal 3. So that is what I'm getting for the tarot portion of your reading, Pal 3. I really, really hope you enjoyed this reading today. If you did enjoy the reading, please don't forget to like the video. Please comment and let me know what resonated. Or just let me know which pal you picked if you don't feel comfortable letting me know what resonated. If you haven't subbed, please consider doing that. That is the best and easiest way to support me. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being here. I really, really appreciate you. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Hi, Pal 4 Collective. Welcome to your reading. If you chose Pal 4 and you chose the tortoise shell snake sticker, you are in the correct place. Welcome to your reading, friends. So this reading is basically asking, what do you need to know right now? What do you need to hear most? And what does your higher self want to tell you? So if you've been struggling to get this new era of your life started, or if you are in that energy of making those changes, but you could just do with a little bit of a boost from an enlightened being, this is the reading for you, because we are channeling your higher self today, and your higher self is here to give you a talking to, give you a little bit of a pep talk, and to hype you up if you need it. So if you would like a full reading breakdown, then please check out my introduction. I go through absolutely everything there. But first of all, we're starting off with an energy check. So we are going to be looking at just one oracle card. And this oracle card will represent what your higher self wants you to prioritize most right now, what they need you to know most. So this could be something you've been struggling with, something you've been working to improve, or something you're hoping to prioritize more in 2025 or whenever you're watching, because the reading is timeless, so whenever it finds you is the right time. We are then going to be moving to the tarot portion of the reading, and that will be a deeper dive on this energy. And just so you know, I will be pulling the tarot cards on camera today, although I will probably speed the card pulling up when I'm editing the video, but it's there if you want to watch it. If not, feel free to skip that section. I just know that some of you prefer to see the card pulls so that you can really connect with your pile. So usual disclaimers, it's a collective reading. Not every single detail or example I give is going to resonate, nor would I expect it to. Please take what's for you and leave the rest for somebody else. If you do not identify some aspect of yourself within the energy check, I would encourage you to choose a different pile. You are also welcome to choose more than one if more than one is calling to you, and if you would like multiple pep talks, that is absolutely okay. Please know that energies are not set in stone, and you do not have to accept anything as your story if it isn't. You are the creator of your reality. I'm literally just the messenger. And if the reading is at any point becoming more harmful to you than it is helpful, please disengage from the reading if that is going to be in your best interest. The best and easiest way to support this channel, if you like these readings and if you want to see more of them, is by liking the video. Please take 2 seconds out of your day to like, to comment, and to subscribe if you haven't done so already. I would just appreciate that so much. I did do a big soppy thank you in my intro if you would like to check that out, but if not, I just wanted to give you another quick thanks. I really appreciate you listening. Thank you so much for being here. And without any further hesitation, let's get started with your reading, Pal 4. So these cards are from the Shine Your Light Oracle, and we will just pop your snake here, and let's turn over your card. So we have got Tune Into Your Inner Peace. So I really feel as though your higher self is saying, Pal 4, the thing they would like you to prioritize most is your peace. And some of you might be laughing because perhaps you have been placed in situations recently that have really tested your sense of peace and your ability to maintain your cool, is what I want to say. So some of you could have recently dealt with some challenging, intense, chaotic, hectic, busy situations. And I feel like that makes sense for a lot of us, to be quite honest, because as much excitement as there is around this time of year, around Christmas, It sometimes also can feel quite stressful or more challenging, especially if you work in a place where like that is your busiest time of year, or especially if there is a lot of pressure to reconnect with certain people around the festive season and you feel like there's an obligation to kind of fit everyone into your life, or to see people or be around people that maybe frustrate you or maybe test your peace. And that doesn't have to be the case. And obviously, lots and lots of different people with different backgrounds will pick the same pile. So I want to give examples for multiple situations. But if you don't come necessarily from the healthiest relationship dynamic, if you grew up surrounded by conflict or by argumentative people around you, disrupting your sense of peace and safety, but you feel like you have an obligation to go and see these people at least once a year and spend time with them, maybe around Christmas as one example. It doesn't have to be that, but if that is the case for you, if you sort of feel forced to be in a room interacting with these people, you could have been placed in those situations recently where you really had to, like, I want to say tune out the noise. So maybe tune out the noise, choose not to get involved with certain arguments, choose not to slip into old patterns of behavior, choose not to shout over the top of people to be heard. And it doesn't have to be that these people are necessarily unhealthy, because I know that won't apply to everyone. Like some of you, if you have had unhealthy people in your life, maybe you have cut them off recently because you were prioritizing your peace. And we will talk about that. Like maybe you have ended friendships or relationships because you have realized that you need to protect yourself, and you realize that certain relationships in your life maybe weren't the best thing for your health, your physical health, your mental health, or your spiritual health. So that could definitely be a thing. But some of you, like these people, you love them, you care about them, but also you can't give everything to everyone, and you can't be there for certain people 100% of the time. So maybe this is you sort of acknowledging to yourself, it's okay for me to take space from certain people. It's okay for me to decline social obligations if I need to. It's okay for me to create this inner sanctuary within my home. And home could be a big part of this, the ways that enable you to feel safe. This could be your higher self encouraging you to cultivate an environment that prioritizes your sense of safety and you feeling like the most at peace, balanced, harmonious version of yourself. So this could involve some decluttering, some getting rid of old baggage. It could be very physical like that, like physical things that you need to get rid of. Or it could also be emotional baggage. This could be sort of cutting off the dead weight because you have realized that a situation is not bringing you the peace that you deserve, and you have had to remove that situation from your life. This doesn't have to be a relationship. It could be like a job that you have recently left because the stress of the job maybe far outweighed the positives. And this is you, realizing that it's okay to set boundaries. Like if you are in a stressful job and there is pressure for you to take on extra hours or do overtime, this is you being able to be firm and say no to that and feel okay with doing that. And it's the same thing with the relationships in your life. If people are putting pressure on you to see them constantly or spend time with them constantly, when maybe you need more time to be by yourself and to relax in your own space independently, then it is about prioritizing that and not feeling bad for that. I keep getting messages about tuning out the world around you or staying in your own lane. So there could be something about your higher self saying to you, like, you need to prioritize minding your business when it is beneficial to do so. And I think this means, like, if you have a habit of wanting to get involved in other people's problems to try and offer them solutions or help them fix their issues, or if you invest too much emotionally in trying to fix other people's lives for them, essentially, it's okay to take a step back from that. You can't be everything to everyone at all times. And I think your higher self is telling you that it's important to assess what is worth your energy versus what is not worth your energy. So this could be, not rising to certain challenging people around you. Maybe this is taking a step back. If somebody around you is trying to rile you up or trying to get a reaction out of you, this could be about you kind of getting ahead of that and realizing what's going on and deciding that you are not going to engage with that person if it does not result in a productive discussion. Maybe you are fed up with going back and forth with somebody. You don't want a conflict, you just want a drama-free, peaceful life. And that is what you are focusing on most at the moment. So this could be you choosing not to react to things that you would have previously reacted to. This could be you understanding that it's not your responsibility to make someone else understand where you are coming from if they are committed to being ignorant, potentially willfully ignorant at that. And that can apply to people within your life. And I do just want to say at this point, like, no matter how good of a person you are, or no matter how much you try to show up kindly to other people, you are always going to encounter people who interpret you the wrong way and who take what you are saying and turn it into something it's not. And in the past, it could have felt like for you, pal, for maybe when you felt that sense of injustice that somebody had taken you the wrong way or they weren't really getting what you were saying. Maybe you felt the need to kind of debate them or to shut them down. I think you are very much capable of arguing your case and sticking up for yourself in that way, but sometimes it was kind of a lost cause because you can't convince anybody of anything if they are convinced that you are the bad guy. If that is their narrative, they will do anything to try and twist that narrative so that it aligns with their preconceived notions of what the situation is. So this could kind of be you. Things that would previously kind of reel you into getting into a conflict or answering back or saying something. This could be you saying, like, that literally isn't worth my time. It's not worth my energy. This could be you asking yourself, like, is this going to be productive? Is this going to lead to a good outcome? And if the answer is no, then this is you basically not spending any time thinking about it, letting it take up space in your brain, or investing energy on it because it is just not worth it. This is you kind of picking your battles, choosing your battles wisely. Your higher self could be telling you to prioritize rest and not doing everything at once, not trying to get too much done in one day. Some of you could be engaging with some kind of soft challenge, or you are hoping to tap into more of a softer lifestyle, slow living. You are doing things more at a pace that suits you, or you are trying to implement that in your life. Maybe some of you have realized that the level of stress that you have experienced due to this external situation or due to pressure that you are putting on yourself and you trying to cram too much into one day, you realize that maybe it has left you burnt out, or maybe you have acknowledged that it has left you with health issues, and you are really putting your health first because you are realizing, like, that level of stress, that level of I have to do everything all at once, it isn't good for the body, it isn't good for the mind, it's not good for the soul, and you don't need to keep pushing when really what you need to do is slow down. I think you're telling yourself that. So you could have in the past sometimes felt like, oh, I'm not doing enough, when actually you weren't giving yourself the break you needed and maybe you were doing too much. So I think your higher self wants you to be aware of that and make sure that you are looking after your health and make sure that you are giving yourself enough downtime. And by downtime, I don't mean like doom scrolling on your phone for 3 hours. And I'm not saying that you do that, powerful, but if you know that you do that and you've been saying to yourself, like, I want to reduce my screen time, or I'm finding that I feel very stressed and I feel very anxious when I am on this particular subreddit or when I am watching these kinds of YouTube videos, then please take a step back from that. Like, listen to that inner voice that is telling you that and do what is best for you, because you shouldn't be letting anything take away from your peace in that way. And too much of anything can be a bad thing within a certain context. And I think this applies especially like to external things going on in the world. I think it can be great to be aware of the things going on in the world. And when we feel able to, I think it's amazing to be an advocate and to speak out about injustices that are happening and advocate for worthwhile causes. But at the same time, if we are consuming too much of that content to the point that it is disrupting our peace and it is making us feel unwell, then I think it's also important for us to be able to say to ourselves, like, okay, maybe I need to take a step back from this. Maybe I need to disengage from this content. Maybe I shouldn't be absorbing so much negative information. Because you can't be a good advocate if you don't first and foremost advocate for your own general health, but particularly emotional health when it comes to consuming certain types of content. Like, I feel like some of you are like, well, I can't just shut this out. Like, I have to be there to see what's going on in the world because I'm in a place of privilege and I need to talk about these issues, or I always need to be on call to be there for my business or to be there for my colleagues. I feel like this is about creating boundaries between you and the outside world in some way. So this could be you having a set routine in terms of the work hours you do. Like, if you have your own business, this could be you not feeling like, oh, I'm going to miss out on getting this client or on this opportunity if I don't reply to my emails 24/7. That is going to exhaust you and it's going to burn you out. This could be you setting a boundary of like, okay, I don't check any work emails after 6 p.m. or whatever the case may be. And that can be easier said than done because some of you, it's like you kind of try to establish these routines for yourself, but then you find yourself slipping up and you're like, oh, well, it's 7 p.m., but it won't do me any harm to just check that one email or just reply to this one comment. But then that sort of puts you on a cycle of then ending up on your phone for 5 hours when it was just meant to be 5 minutes or something like that. It doesn't have to be that example. But I think sometimes you think like, oh, I won't be productive enough if I'm not doing this all the time, if I'm not on the ball. But really, actually, I think your higher self is saying you could be even more productive if you give yourself the space to shut off all the noise and not think about any of this other shit going on and not take on all of the world's problems as if they're your own. I think your higher self is saying like, focus on your own problems. And I don't mean that in the way of saying like, oh, you have problems, like focus on your own problems. I don't mean it in a mean way. I just mean like, put your own oxygen mask on before putting anyone else's on. Because you can't go and change the world if you're not well fed and you're not well rested and you don't feel good about yourself. So prioritize your peace, prioritize your sleep, your rest. This could be encouraging you to really, really shift up your routine and change something in a way that works for you. So implementing healthier habits and really committing to those habits and trusting yourself not to break your own boundaries and to go back on what you've said. So that is what I'm getting for the oracle portion of your reading. We are about to move on to the tarot, so please bear with me and we will get started with that. I hope you are enjoying the reading so far, Pal 4, and I'll see you at your tarot. Hi Pal 4 Collective, welcome to the tarot portion of your reading. We are about to get started and we are going to pull some cards for you. So we are going to be elaborating on some of what was discussed throughout the oracle, and we're going to be asking, what do you need to know right now? What kind of pep talk does your higher self want to give you? We are going to be connecting with your higher self and asking them those questions. So let's get started. Pile 4. Okay, so we have got the Seven of Swords reversed with the clarifier being the Ace of Swords. We've got the Star reversed with the clarifier being the Queen of Swords. We have got the Knight of Pentacles with the clarifier being the Eight of Pentacles, and we've got the Two of Cups with the clarifier being the King of Pentacles. I did also get the Magician kind of popping out at the same time, but I'm only taking 8 cards for this pull today. So I went with the King of Pentacles, but if I feel like the Magician is relevant, I will mention it, don't worry. So I have just had to cover the Star card up a little bit with a little bit of washi tape because she is showing her boobies and her pant parts, and that is not allowed on YouTube. So much to my dismay, I have had to cover her bits up. I think I already showed them when I pulled the cards, so I'm going to have to try and find a way to blur those. So I'm getting a few different messages, and there are multiple examples that I want to talk about in relation to this energy, powerful. But the overarching message that I'm getting is that you are being encouraged by your higher self to prioritize your peace, because that is what is going to lead you to success. And because you have bigger things to concern yourself with than some of the things. This jumpsuit that this Seven of Swords lady is wearing is so cute. I like the little off the shoulder. I don't know whether it's Bardo style, but some of you could have like an outfit that looks like this or that has this kind of shoulder. That could just be like a little confirmation for somebody here. I love that. I love the colour as well. Like, it's so cute. Very pretty. Some of you could look really good in this kind of colour. We do have quite a few blues showing up, so blue could be a significant colour for some of you guys. I just wanted to mention that if it's an extra confirmation for anyone. But yeah, I'm hearing something like your higher self is saying you're no longer going to be taking your eyes off the prize, or you're no longer essentially going to be rising to people's bullshit. So this could apply especially if you have someone within your life who is particularly disagreeable or argumentative or difficult to please, is what I want to say. maybe somebody who can be a little bit tactless or has a sharp tongue or doesn't always know when they are hurting people. It feels like you're internalizing some of that person's behavior much, much less. I want to say, if this is like a work colleague or a work situation or something like that, maybe you are not going to be taking the stress from work home with you because you are learning to prioritize your peace. So for some of you, maybe this external situation has been affecting other relationships in your life. So for example, if you have like a really, really super stressful day at work and you come home and you need to blow off some steam, and then maybe your partner or your roommate starts asking you something the minute you walk through the door, because of the day you have had, it makes it easier to snap at that person, and it makes it easier to take things out on the wrong people at times. And I'm not saying that you do that, but I'm just saying when we do get a more peaceful day, it is much easier to maintain that peace even when we are faced with minor challenges. Whereas if we have a day that absolutely drains the life out of us, and by the time we come home, we are just so exhausted that we need to lie down in a dark room in silence, and we need to not think about anything else or speak to anything else because we feel so pent up and frustrated and overwhelmed. It is much easier then when we are faced with like a minor inconvenience, or our partner doing something annoying, or our roommate burning the food they're cooking for us, or something like that. It's much easier to then fly off the handle and snap over the smaller things in that moment. So this could be about you actually solidifying the relationships in your life, because you're no longer doing that because of the boundaries that you are going to express with those around you, because of your commitment to yourself and your commitment to prioritizing your peace. You are really going to be dedicated to that, is something that I'm seeing. And your higher self is saying like, yes, that is the thing that is going to make you most successful. That is the thing you need to be doing, because there's been certain situations surrounding you that have really taken it out of you and at times made you feel a little bit hopeless, to be quite honest. Especially with this star in reverse, it could have been that you have been surrounded by some kind of negative influence. And specifically, I'm hearing the phrase, I can't do right for doing wrong, or something like I can't do anything right. So it could be that you encountered somebody who, no matter what you did, they were always negative, or they always started an argument, made things into a dispute. They always kind of got the wrong end of the stick in terms of things you were saying. And I just want to say, like, if you have pent up frustration surrounding this person and not being able to get your point across to them, not feeling like you can explain yourself effectively, and if you have tried tirelessly to not make amends with that person, but to accommodate them and to get them around to your way of thinking or to accept you in some way, again, I think this is your higher self telling you like that is not your responsibility, and also it has very little to do with you, and it's more about this person's negative attitude, because some people will drain the life out of us by pulling us down into their negativity. And I'm not talking about somebody who is close to you being down and getting upset and you being there as a source of comfort and support for that person, because we all go through hard times where sometimes we are feeling quite negative or quite down towards our environment, and that is just like sort of one of the ebbs and flows of being human, and I think you can understand that. So I'm not saying like, say to the people in your life who are having a bit of a difficult time, like, oh, you're a negative influence on my life. I mean it more towards people who are purposely assuming the worst when it comes to you, your intentions, and people who are getting you down by making you feel like their inability to feel happy about anything is your fault. That is basically the message I want to get across, because some people, you can try and do everything in the world to please them, but they still won't be pleased if they are unhappy within themselves, and there's nothing you can do to change that. So for some of you, and you know, this can refer to any person or any situation in your life, this could be a partner or ex-partner, it could be a friend, a family member, it could be a colleague or a boss, or it could be a client if you have your own business. It could be that this person has been endlessly impossible to please, is what I want to say. Like, nothing you do is ever right in their eyes. You can try really hard, but you never quite get it right. And I just want to say, like, we encounter people like this all the time. There's certain people where you could say the nicest thing in the world to them. Like, you could literally say, I like your outfit, and they will turn around and make it into a negative, and they will say like, oh, well, do you not like my other outfits? Like, what are you saying? And it's like, you just can't win. You can't win with these people. So the best thing to do entirely is to pull yourself out of the game, because you're not playing, like you have bigger things to focus on. And I see that with this Knight of Pentacles and the Eight of Pentacles. You have so much more that you need to throw your energy towards. And I feel like that's something you're discovering. It's to not get worked up by these situations that you cannot change. So you're either pulling back your energy from the people who surround you who are like that, and you are entering into more stimulating environments and circumstances because you have got the clarity you need on that situation. Maybe you have figured out like, oh, it's nothing I'm doing. You know, if this person is treating me this way or acting like I'm the problem, maybe that is something that they need to fix within them. So you're no longer taking that baggage home with you. You know, there could have been a time where every night you came home to your partner or your roommate and you said like, oh, I just can't believe it, like this person at work, this client, I keep coming back to them with new ideas and they keep rejecting it and they keep saying that I'm bad. Or with like a boss, you could do everything you need to do at the workplace, go above and beyond in your role, and they're still finding something to criticize. They still have a negative perspective on it. And I think this is about you realizing like, well, nothing I do with this person will ever be good enough, but why does that matter? Like, as long as I am good enough for me, as long as I am showing up how I want to. And for some of you, it could be that this person in your life, not only are they negative, because for some of you, like they could be negative and they don't realize how negative they are and how they make other people around them feel hopeless. Maybe they feel like they are being constructive or they are trying to help, but really it's too much brutal honesty without empathy, or it's completely lacking in tact, or it's just objectively the wrong thing to say. But maybe they are a little bit unaware. Maybe some of them are quite socially unaware even, or they can be a little bit cold or detached and they don't deliver their advice in the most diplomatic way that they could do. So it could be that, but on the whole it is kind of unintentional. But for others of you, like I want to say this person knows exactly what they're doing, and it feels like some of them are trying to purposely get a reaction out of you to steal your time and energy, or because they know that that is the only way that they could possibly get attention from you. And it could be that they want to kind of see you crumble to their level. They want to pull you down to their level. They want to get you to answer back. You could have someone in your life who purposely tries to start debates, knowing that they're not actually willing to listen to a logical argument. They just essentially want to stir up shit. So this could be somebody who always like challenges your political beliefs at the family dinner table or something like that. And I keep hearing the word cutthroat, and I keep hearing something about like, don't make me step on your neck. And I'm just looking at these boots and I keep hearing that. I don't know why, but this makes me feel like you grew up as like a fighter, powerful, and I don't mean like a physical fighter. I mean, for some of you, you know, that's possible if you're into like fighting, kickboxing, martial arts. Maybe like literally you are into fighting in a productive way. But for others of you, it's more like, I'm getting the image now of like a group of wild animals arguing over scraps. Like the mother wolf is throwing a piece of meat out to her cubs and they're all sort of fighting over who can get the biggest piece of meat. I don't think this is to be taken in a literal way, but it could be like if you had siblings growing up, it was always like a fight for who could be the best. But I don't mean like you were literally fighting over food or anything like that. I mean, for some of you it's possible, but I think for the most part this refers more to like, it was always a fight of like who could I want to say like who could make the other cry. So maybe like, especially I think this could apply to those of you who have older siblings, or at least one older sibling. And I say this as somebody, I only have one sibling, but I have an older sibling and there is a bit of an age gap between us. Having an older brother or sister really, really toughens you up. Like nobody can roast you like your sibling can. So it could be a sort of fight of who can be the wittiest, who can have the best comebacks, who can deliver the harshest truth, who can win, like who can win the argument. And it doesn't have to be literally your sibling growing up. You could have like a friend who is kind of super competitive with you, or an ex-friend. You could have like a sister-in-law or mother-in-law, or this could be like your own maternal figure, like with that Queen of Swords. I'm getting something about being cutthroat and like the environment you grew up in, it really toughened you up, but maybe sometimes you've taken some traits away from that you now feel are best left in the past. And I feel like if that is something you have been thinking about, and you'll know if it is, but your higher self is saying like you are onto the right lines of thinking with that, because you are bigger and better than that, and you are capable of being the bigger person. And being the bigger person isn't like letting people get away with things. You can still be honest, but you don't have to resort to like pettiness and name calling and insulting people. And I'm not saying you do that, but sometimes it could feel like where you're saying like, don't make me step on your neck, it's kind of saying like, don't test me because you will regret it. And I think that's a good thing that you can stick up for yourself, powerful, but at the same time, do you need to at all times? Because as long as you know your truth, it doesn't matter if other people agree with you. And honestly, some people are just trying to get a rise out of you when they approach you about certain things. And it's not always worth rising to. Like, I keep getting that message, you have bigger and better things to be focusing on, so put your energy elsewhere. Like, it is better spent elsewhere. Some of you could have got to a stage in your life where you feel as though, like, I am done with the drama, I'm done with the bullshit, I'm not getting involved in people's messy discourse about things that I shouldn't care about this much. I think you're prioritizing the important things, which could be like the relationships in your life, but it could be a certain goal or a project you're working towards. You're kind of saying like, anything that goes on around me, I'm not allowing it to take over my life. I'm going to allow myself to tune it out if I need to, because what's most important is me sticking to my routine, because that is how I will become most successful. Or what's important to me is nurturing my relationships and connecting with the people in my life who truly want to have a genuine connection with me, instead of just disagreeing with whatever I say for the sake of disagreement. And I just want to say, like, if you are dealing with any kind of stress and you go home and you vent to your partner or your friends or your family about it, that is absolutely okay. But I think sometimes when something winds you up, you get upset when it feels like you don't get the last word or you haven't said your piece. But I think this is your higher self coming through to remind you that you don't have to say your piece to every single person to be vindicated, like, or to feel like you've won, because sometimes you've won by just not rising to it, by just not getting involved with the bullshit that they are trying to throw your way. Sometimes you're winning just by being silent and not saying anything, and you're winning by moving on with your life and being happy, surrounded by people who truly love and respect you. So this is making me think, like, it's not that you're not sticking up for yourself, because if you want to say something, I think you will say it, but I think you're getting way more comfortable doing it in a diplomatic way, so you're getting your point across without stooping to a level that would make you feel like you have betrayed yourself, and you're still going to come away feeling like you're on top of the situation, and in turn, you're not going to come away from it sort of ruminating and saying to yourself, oh, I really don't like the way I acted in that situation, like this person got the better of me, I feel like I gave in to my emotional side, I feel like I saw a side of myself that I didn't want to see, or I feel like they got the upper hand in some way. And you're also not going to let it infiltrate the rest of your day. So if something happens at work and it stresses you out, in the past, you might have sort of gone over it with your partner, and then because you feel like the conversation didn't go a way you wanted, the conversation with your partner for the rest of the night could center on like what happened at work and going over the same things again, and you saying like, oh, I should have said this, or I wish I'd have said this, or I shouldn't have said this, like I should have worded it in this way. And we all do that from time to time, like we all end up in situations where that happens, but I feel like you have come to a place where you are not letting it upset you to that level. And I also feel like this could apply not just in terms of you being overreactive, but sometimes maybe you are underreactive, and if you hold back, sometimes that can lead to frustration as well. So maybe if you don't always open up about something that upsets you in the moment, you could kind of hold on to the pent up rage instead of just letting it out, when really if you were able to let it out, you could move on faster. So if you said everything that you needed to say in the moment and got it out in the open, you could be like, right, I've said it, I've had my cry, I've had my little rage, and now we can move on, like now we can enjoy our night. So this could be in relation to like if you do have a romantic partner, certain conflicts with them, maybe your higher self is calling you to, you know, maybe look at the ways that you give them silent treatment or something like that. I'm not saying that is the case for everyone, but that's just one example. And maybe this is saying like, say what you need to say, don't hold on to things, like speak clearly, speak with purpose, feel your feelings, but don't hold on to resentment, don't hold on to grudges. So this could be like in that work situation, somebody pisses you off at work, you tell them why you're pissed off in a more professional way than just saying you're pissed off, but you give them what for in a diplomatic way, and then you come home and you can get that off your chest to your partner, to your friend, to your roommate, and say, like, this is what happened, it pissed me off, but I said this, and then you no longer have to think about it because you've said what you needed to and you've released that, and now you're moving on, so it doesn't take up the rest of your entire evening, and then you and your partner can connect and you can go for something nice to eat and have more pleasant conversations and enjoy a drink or enjoy some good alone quality time together in whatever way that applies for you. And if this is actually like a situation you can remove yourself from, I feel like that could be something you're working towards, because maybe you have figured out this situation is unworkable, like I cannot do it anymore. And instead of me complaining about it and me feeling upset and drained every single night due to dealing with this, like I am going to figure out a way to get out of this situation. So if this is a work situation, this could be applying for new jobs and trying your best to focus on handing CVs in and getting your professional profile out there so you can find something different and you can really improve your life. Or if this is like a toxic cycle that you're stuck in with another person, this could be literally you refusing to engage with them. And I know that isn't going to be possible for everyone, but if this is somebody who you can remove from your life efficiently and effectively and safely, you might actually be doing that because you have the clarity that this situation isn't working. Maybe you're figuring out you can't go on feeling worked up about this, and you have to look after your health, your peace, your rest. So I think it can go either way for this particular pile. You could be somebody who feels like you say too much and sometimes you want to take it back. Or on the opposite side of that, you could be somebody who holds back and then ends up frustrated that you didn't get a chance to say all that you wanted to say. So I think it could go either way. But what I'm hearing, either way that works for you, is that you are not letting anybody get the better of you because you see clearly what they are trying to do. And it's very possible that some of you do have people in your life who try to get a rise out of you and who do try to manipulate the conversation. And for those of you who feel like you didn't stand up for yourself in a certain situation or that you lacked backbone in a certain situation, it could be that you felt as though at one point that was a betrayal to yourself because you put up with more than what you should have put up with. But I think you are getting some clarity on that situation, and that might allow you to draw a line under it. So particularly if this was like a person in your life, a friend or a love interest who was two-faced in some way, maybe this was somebody like you ignored the warnings when it came to them and you didn't want to believe it. Maybe something has come out in the open about this person and it has allowed you to move on with truth and integrity. I'm also hearing like if there's somebody you need to block to find your peace, then please do that. I'm also hearing like you don't owe anybody an explanation, and this is actually something I encounter on YouTube, and I think it's the need to get people to see our side or to explain ourselves so that we can connect with them. But what I'm hearing from your higher self is that, and I feel like this is advice for me too, but it's basically like not everyone deserves an explanation. Like you don't owe anybody that. And this could apply like particularly if you are a content creator of any kind and you receive like negative comments sometimes or negative reviews. And I'm not talking about constructive criticism, I'm talking about things that feel deliberately unkind. And you can always sense it if that's the case. Like you could be the kind of person who feels like, well, I need to reply to this, or I need to give my side of the story. I need to set this person straight. But I think your higher self is coming through to say, like, no, you don't. Like, you really don't. And I know that's easier said than done. Like, when our natural instinct can be to give our truth and give our interpretation of events and to be understood. But you can't get someone to understand you who is committed to misunderstanding you. And you do not owe anybody an explanation. Like, literally, if this is your channel and you are encountering unkind comments that are compromising your peace, if your channel is your safe space, then delete it. Delete it because you have every right to do that. Nobody has the right to occupy your space with their negative thoughts and beliefs. So instead of ruminating on other people's opinions, just delete that comment and never think about it again. Do not interpret it as your failing because it's really, really not. It has a lot more to do with the other person than it ever could with you. So sometimes the best solution is literally just doing nothing and just getting on with your day and staying in your lane and protecting your peace and not thinking about that person or that situation ever again. But if what you're working on is actually in relation to becoming more assertive because that's something you need instead of holding on to resentment, this could be about you challenging that difficult person in your life, not in a way that would compromise your morals because that is what you want to avoid, But if you have somebody criticizing your every move, like let's say you have a really difficult client and you have given them multiple proposals about a certain idea, but nothing is ever good enough, they always reject it, they always say, like, this is rubbish or whatever, you could come to them and you could have a conversation about that and ask them what it is that they want from you, because it doesn't seem like they are happy with these current proposals. So perhaps they might be interested in going elsewhere. And you will quickly find when somebody is presented with that, they will often backtrack and they will often deny that they meant some of the negative things they'd said. And ultimately, like, you will find out that client could turn around and say to you, like, oh, no, like, you're still the best person for this role, like, you're the best person that I found. Some people think that criticism will encourage you or motivate you. I don't know whether criticism is motivational. I don't think it is for me. It might be for some people. But if this relates to a difficult person in your life, they could feel like their criticism was intended to help you, even if, that is not the case. I feel like your higher self is really encouraging you to focus on the things that are most important to you, not get caught up in the bullshit. This could be you not dropping everything to answer your friends' texts, because yes, you can help them, but you also need to have boundaries. And if you had planned to go to a gym class, it's not, ignoring your needs and, just not going to that gym class because you need to go and see your friend. It's saying, right, I'm going to go to this class and then I will go and talk to my friend. Because that is how you are going to become most successful, is when you tune out the bullshit, assert yourself when you need to, but don't get caught up in the ego of it all. Don't get caught up in the one-upmanship, because you will always have the higher ground. We know that you could absolutely roast someone to filth if you needed to, pal 4, and you don't need to prove yourself. Don't let anyone faze you. Remain unbothered and protect your peace at all costs. Do anything you can to protect your peace, whether it's keeping someone blocked, or whether it's blocking someone, whether it's distancing yourself, having a conversation with somebody about boundaries and expectations, whether it's prioritizing your own goals over something external. Do whatever it takes to maintain your peace, because that is a way that you will thrive and become the very best version of yourself. That is a way that you will become this King of Pentacles, when you've tuned out all that other irrelevant bullshit and given attention and focus to the things that bring you joy and make you feel hopeful. So that is what I'm getting for your reading, pal 4. I really, really hope you enjoyed this reading today. If you did like the reading, please give me a little like, please comment if you get a chance, and if you haven't done so already, please subscribe. That would just mean the absolute world to me, and I would appreciate it so, so much. Thank you for being here, thank you for listening, take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Hi Pal 5 Collective, if you chose Pal 5 and you chose the blue snake, you are in the correct place. Welcome to your reading, friends. So this reading is basically asking, what do you need to know right now? What do you need to hear? And what does your higher self want to tell you? So if you've been struggling to get this new era of your life started, or if you are in that energy of making certain changes, but you could just do with a little bit of a boost from an enlightened being, you are in the right place, because we are connecting with your higher self today. So this will be a channeled message from your higher self, and your higher self is here to give you a talking to give you a little bit of a pep talk, and to hype you up if you need it. If you would like a full reading breakdown, please go ahead and check out the introduction. I go through absolutely everything there, but we are going to be starting the reading off by looking at just one oracle card. That's the card in front of us here, and that will be your energy check. So in the energy check, we're going to be looking at what your higher self wants to bring to your attention most right now. So this could be something you've been struggling with, something you are working to improve, or something you're just hoping to prioritize more in 2025, or whenever it is you're watching, because the reading is timeless. Whenever you find this reading is the right time for you. You do not have to be watching at the new year. And then we're going to be moving on to the tarot portion of the reading, which will be a deeper dive on this energy. By the way, for this reading, I have decided to do something I don't normally do, or at least I don't do it every time, and I haven't done it in a while, and that's to pull the cards on camera. So I will probably speed that portion of the video up as I'm editing, but it's there if you want it. I know for some of you guys that helps you connect to your pile better, and I thought that was important in a reading about your higher self, because you might see a part of yourself coming through as we are pulling those cards. So usual disclaimers here, it's a collective reading and not every single detail or example is going to resonate for you, nor would I ever expect it to. So please take what's for you and leave the rest for somebody else. If you do not identify some aspect of yourself within the energy check, I would encourage you to choose a different pile. You are also welcome to choose more than one if more than one is calling to you, and if you would like multiple pep talks. Please know that energies are never set in stone and you do not have to accept anything as your story if it simply isn't. You are the creator of your reality. I am literally just the messenger. And if this reading is at any point becoming more harmful to you than it is helpful, please disengage from the reading if that is going to be in your best interest. With all of that said, let's have a look at the card we pulled for you today. If you enjoyed this reading today, please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe if you get a chance. It is the easiest and best way to support this channel and I would just appreciate it so much. I notice every single like, every single comment and every single sub and it all just means the world to me. I did a little bit of a soppy thank you in my intro if you want to check that out, but if not, I just wanted to thank you guys again for being here and for taking time out of your day to listen. With all of that said, without any further hesitation, let's have a look at the oracle card we pulled for you today. So I'm going to pop your snake just here and we have got get creative and excite your imagination with wonder. So the first thing that popped into my head as I was looking at this card and something I feel your higher self maybe wants to bring to your attention, it could be something to do with the sacral chakra. And for some of you, this could be suggesting that your sacral chakra is becoming more available. I don't know if that's the right word to use, but is becoming more open. You are going to be able to tap into it more, and that is something your higher self wants you to be aware of and to actively lean into over this next year. But on the other hand, my initial thought was like some of you could be struggling with a blocked sacral chakra, despite maybe you being an extremely creative person. And I'm not an expert when it comes to chakras and things like that. So for it to come out immediately like that as I'm starting a reading, I think that probably is significant for somebody here. But I am aware that any kind of blocked chakra can cause certain issues. So I will read out just a little bit of information about a sacral chakra block specifically. So a blocked sacral chakra is said to be a state where the energy of the sacral chakra is stifled, resulting in a lack of flow, emotion, and passion. This can lead to a number of physical and emotional symptoms, including feeling detached from emotions, anger, fear, anxiety, or loneliness, physical symptoms such as stiffness, lower abdominal pain, reproductive issues, anemia, hypoglycemia, joint problems, low energy, and spleen and kidney issues, difficulty expressing emotions, lack of motivation, or a feeling of numbness towards pleasure, feeling creatively blocked or stagnant, and social repercussions could be strained social interactions, difficulty connecting with loved ones, or excessive boundaries. And I hope it goes without saying, but just to reiterate, if you are having any symptoms like these and they are new symptoms that your health practitioner is not aware of, I would always advise you to speak with a clinician. I am not a doctor, I'm just a tarot reader. Some of these symptoms I can definitely relate to myself, and I am due to have a blood test anyway soon just to check that everything's okay. I've been putting my blood test off, but I'm going next week. So if that is the case for you, then obviously please see a clinician about it. Get your blood work done. Make sure you're not deficient in anything. Make sure everything's all good. Make sure you are provided with a full and extensive investigation of everything that this could be. But it could be worth doing some research on the sacral chakra and what it means to have a blocked sacral chakra. Obviously, that was just a very brief overview from me. But if you recognize those things as confirmations or as things you have been dealing with, again, please see a medical professional, but it could just be a little bit of confirmation for you if you know that is something you've been dealing with. Now, this message could be for those of you who have creative projects on the go, but maybe you have become disillusioned with your creative projects because they haven't yet led you to your desired outcome, whether that's in terms of achieving monetary success or otherwise. Or it could just be that you are struggling to get into the flow of creativity, potentially due to external influences. And I can actually relate to a lot of this because I would say that I am a more creative person. I'm definitely more creative than I am logical. I'm not saying that I'm super talented in terms of my creativity, and I think you definitely are, Pal 5, and that's something your higher self wants to highlight to you, that you are super talented when it comes to whichever kind of creativity you possess. But I would say, I do tarot, which I would say is inherently creative in and of itself, because you can set an intention for a reading that you want it to go a certain way, but a lot of it is about tapping into your intuition and really going with the flow and seeing what your imagination conjures up. Obviously, these are channeled messages delivered through my imagination, I guess, but you still have to kind of tap into that flow state to get there. And a lot of the ability to do that, it can depend on the energy you have to give to begin with. And it's the same for anything you do. Like, I like to write as well. I'm not saying I'm an amazing writer, but I do enjoy writing. But sometimes you are just not in the right headspace to do it, or you don't have enough of the energy, you don't have anything to give, and your imagination isn't able to conjure up some of the things it needs to in order to be able to fully be present in that creative process. Like, you can't force it, basically, is what I'm trying to say. And that can be hard, like, especially when your creativity is a business and it's something that you do kind of have to force because that's what you do to make money. But for a lot of us, we just, do our creative things as and when we can outside of our day job, because it's what we love doing, it's what we are passionate about, and it's what we want to do most when we are in that flow state and we can tap into our intuition and our imagination more freely. And I know for me personally, when I have tried to force that creativity to happen, when I'm just not in the right state to be able to connect with my creativity, I'm usually not happy with the outcome of that. Like, on a personal level, sometimes I might want to start a tarot reading after work because this is what I love doing, this is what I want to do, but I find myself frustrated when I experience difficulty trying to tap into that space because maybe my brain is just absolutely done for the day. If I've had a really, really stressful day, then as much as I want to do a tarot reading because it's what I want to do, I'm not in the right headspace and the ideas don't flow. So sometimes you can't plan for creativity, and that is frustrating, especially when it's your business and you need to make money that way, or you just want to put a lot of effort into it. It can be difficult to deal with that block, the ideas not coming through, you not feeling that same drive and passion towards a project maybe because you are so drained from whatever else is going on in your life. And I think the thing is as well, maybe a lot of the creative practices that you are drawn towards, they could be very active practices where maybe it's quite hands-on, or it requires, a certain amount of brain power that if you've just had like a really full-on day at work and you're having to socialize with loads of different people, maybe you just don't have that by the end of the day and you don't have enough drive to sort of push towards these passions and towards these projects. But I think your higher self is maybe encouraging you to take on more passive creative hobbies that will allow you to get into that flow state more readily. And if you are finding like you already don't have the time to do the creative practices you want, I know it would maybe seem counterintuitive to tell you to add another creative project onto your list when you can't even get the first one you want to do started. But I think your higher self is wanting to tell you that this is actually something, like making time for yourself like that is something that could really, really help you tremendously. And I'm not talking about something that requires a ton of brain power, like coming up with your next novel idea or something like that. I'm talking about allowing yourself to passively daydream, or it could be something like colouring or scrapbooking even, but maybe in like a very casual way. So you're not concerned with making things look too aesthetically pleasing. It's just something to be doing as you allow your mind to wander. I think this is the main message, Power 5. You really need to give your brain chance to wander. And I know that's easier said than done. Like, if your day is packed with things back to back to back, if you have a very busy schedule or you have had a busy schedule recently, this could really be saying to you that you need to slow down and allow your imagination to wander and allow yourself to wonder again. Because some of you, I think probably you have been very stressed, and that could be a reason for this sacral chakra blockage if that is something that you're dealing with. And I think maybe you've been trying too hard to push yourself to churn out these creative projects or these things that you want to be focusing on, and then maybe you have kind of lost patience with yourself, or you've become disappointed with the amount that you've managed to achieve, maybe thinking that it's not enough, or you've sat down, you've tried to put pen to paper and the ideas just aren't flowing, they're not coming, and you've wondered whether you should give up. And I think your higher self is telling you, like, no, don't give up on this. Maybe give yourself a break, maybe give yourself a chance to step back, but don't let your creative urges go by the wayside. Like, make time for creativity each and every day in whichever way it applies to you. It doesn't have to be that you paint a masterpiece every day. It could just be that you allow yourself to zone out whilst colouring, or you read more. Some of you could have very specific reading goals this year, like maybe you are trying to get back into reading. But I really feel like a lot of you are maybe feeling quite run down and drained due to outside factors in your life. And I think that does happen, particularly around this time of year when we are expected to do a lot of socializing, we're expected to attend a lot of events, we see family, we see friends, we have to try and fit everything in. I think I mentioned this in one of my other readings today. I can't remember which pile it was, I'm sorry. If you're drawn to any other pile, maybe you'll be drawn to that one, but if not, no worries. But it is a time where, you know, often our creative practices and other things in our life do fall by the wayside because we have so many other obligations. But I think your higher self is telling you you really, really, really need to prioritize the things that allow you to dream big and the things that allow your imagination to kind of go wild. And I think your higher self is saying if you are feeling that creative block, doing another creative practice could help with that, even if it seems counterintuitive to add more to your plate. Like, let's say you're a writer and you have been struggling to get to this next chapter, or you have been struggling to find a way to start this book. Or if you've already published a book and it's in a series, maybe you are struggling to get started with plotting the next book. Wherever you're at on your journey, and you don't have to be a writer, by the way, this is just one example that's popping into my mind, but whatever it is you do, you could be like putting a lot of pressure on yourself to pump out this work because you've promised yourself it would be done by a certain date, or maybe you feel like you have people out there waiting on your book. Some of you could even have like fans already, if this is like book 2 in a series or something like that. But you know, it could be that you go to your 9-to-5 job and then you get home and you make tea and you do your exercise and you have a shower, and then you're like, right, this is my plan, this is my schedule, I need to do 2 hours of this book. And then you sit down, you're like, right, I'm ready to do my 2 hours and I'm going to do this every single night. But creativity doesn't always work that way. And please don't get me wrong, like, it's amazing for you to have more of a set in stone routine. I know that's something that like I really, really struggle with, committing to what I've said that I will commit to. So the fact that you would even sit there and say like, I'm going to do 2 hours of this and I'm really going to show up for myself, that is amazing. But at the same time, sometimes we cannot force creativity, and you kind of have to lean into the ebbs and flows of, like, for example, where you're at in your cycle if you're a woman or something like that, because you might find that you have your best ideas when, for example, you are ovulating, whereas maybe when you're PMSing, maybe that's when you get into this sort of brain fog state. And I'm just using that as an example because that is often the case for me personally. It doesn't have to be for you. I'm not saying like that is the thing that happens to all women who have a cycle. For some women, I'm sure it's different, like the other way around or whatever. But I'm just saying sometimes it's important to listen to that, because maybe when you are ovulating, maybe that's when the ideas are all coming to you at once. And maybe when you sit down and do that 2 hours, maybe you want to do a couple more hours because the ideas are flowing. But then maybe, you know, when it gets to your PMS phase, maybe you sit down and you can't even do more than one sentence because the ideas aren't just coming. And I think in those moments, instead of becoming frustrated with yourself, it is important to recognize that we all have ebbs and flows in energy, and you're not always going to be up there 100% of the time. Like, you're not going to be able to tap into that always 100% of the time. And it doesn't mean that you've lost your creativity or you've lost your spark. I know sometimes, like, I don't know if anyone else can relate to this, but I have a few days during my period now, and it's late this time. I'm not pregnant, but it's late. And I've been having really, really bad PMS symptoms, and I've been having a lot of brain fog. And I get like a couple of days. I've always had really bad PMS, but I get a couple of days every time I'm due on where I always feel like, what is the point in anything? Like, I don't have passion towards anything. I don't have a spark towards anything. And some of you could have dealt with a little bit of that feeling. And, you know, if you are due a health check or anything like that, for some of you, it could be like you struggle with seasonal depression. And that makes it more difficult for you to step into your more creative zone, because maybe in winter, that is just something that happens for you. And that's a normal part of the ebbs and flows of being a human as well. Like, it's not just about your menstrual cycle if you're a woman. It's about, you know, what we do in winter versus summer. And I don't mean like seasonal depression should be normalized in the sense that like you just have to put up with it. You know, make sure you're taking your supplements. Make sure if you do deal with anything like that, you are getting help for it so you can be in the best place possible to receive some of these ideas and to tap into your imagination without having to worry as much about this external stuff. I'm sorry if this reading feels a little bit all over the place today. I feel like this could kind of be the energy that you are dealing with. Like, your brain is all over the place. It feels like you're wanting to do lots of different things, and there are a lot of things on your list that you want to start, but maybe you are struggling due to this block or due to your creativity feeling stifled due to perhaps external factors. And it could just be like work stress, things going on around you, family obligations, but it feels as though your brain is kind of being pulled in multiple directions and you don't really know where to start. So there could be some element of like procrastination, like you have so many wonderful, amazing ideas, and I think your higher self really wants you to be aware of that. And I think they also want to encourage you to allow yourself the space to express these ideas as and when they come, instead of, it's like we talked about in that example, instead of you saying to yourself like, well, I need to do it for 2 hours this evening. Like, why don't you, even if you're not in an appropriate place, like, if you like, basically what I'm saying is you never know when inspiration is going to strike and you never know when it's going to come to you. And sometimes when I give myself the opportunity to zone out, I'll get like a random creative idea. And I too have fallen into the trap of being like, oh, okay, like I'll write that down later. But then what happens is I'll end up forgetting it. So I'm saying, like, if you are in a place where you are able to do that, if you get an idea, at least, write it in your notes app on your phone or something like that, or scribble it on a bit of paper, maybe not the full idea, but like a little bit of the idea so that you will remember it later. Because I don't know how many times I have had like downloads of things that I want to like go back to. And then by the end of the day, when I'm exhausted and I'm run down and I come home from work and all I want to do is lie down, I've completely forgotten what that was. And I don't know if it'll ever come back to me. And that's, I think, what your higher self wants to kind of not warn you about, but your higher self is saying like your imagination is amazing. Like your creative power and your creative potential could really go the distance. I'm not saying you have to make money off it if that's not something you want to do. You could, and some of you do, like if this is already a business. But it feels like you are naturally gifted with an extremely creative brain, but at the moment it feels like you haven't been able to tap into it fully, or maybe you have been tapping into it, but you've reached a kind of plateau where you are becoming a little bit disenchanted with your creative project, or you are procrastinating when it comes to this creative project, because there would always be a better time to do it. But I think your higher self wants to let you know there is no time like the present. But that said, nothing needs to be forced. Like, don't put out a piece of work that you're not truly happy with just because you feel like something is on a deadline. Some of you could kind of be perfectionist in terms of like your schedule or your routine, or you're saying like things have to be done in this way. But I think your higher self is, I keep getting this message about you being encouraged to lean into your creative bursts and respect the fact that you're not going to be in that state all of the time. But that doesn't mean you're not a creative person. It doesn't mean like, oh, I lost my spark, or oh, I guess I've given up on this project. It's just about the ebbs and flows of our energy rising and falling. This could also be indicating that if you are in like a 9-to-5 job or anything like that, and I say 9 to 5, it doesn't have to be specifically, but I mean more like a corporate, I don't want to say like normal person job, but you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'm sorry, I can't, like, my brain is really, really fuzzy today. But yeah, if you were in that kind of job, maybe you are realizing that life isn't for you. So you could be realizing that you would like to go into a more creative field. You could be wondering how best to nurture your creativity, and maybe your higher self wants to give you some guidance on that. You could be questioning how you could potentially start a business or get into a creative field. Maybe the more you are in like a sort of corporate environment, the more that you find your energy is drained and you are maybe desperate to move away from that. That's just for some of you. Some of you could be happy just doing something creative on the side, or, just doing it as a hobby. Like, we don't have to monetize our creativity for it to be valid. But yeah, if you have been in that super stressful environment, if you have been in a situation that is kind of draining your energy, I think this is saying it is so, so important to you, if you are experiencing that blockage, to take a little bit of time in the day where you read a book, even if it's for 10 minutes, or you play with your children, or you do some colouring, or you tap into your childlike sense of wonder. That is going to be so important for you, because that is going to help you get into the creative flow, and you never know what inspiration could spark within you when you engage with those things. It feels like you have had to be so rigid recently to make time for everything, and you've had to prioritize certain things, but I think it's also important for you to prioritize play. And with me saying play, it is also making me think like sacral chakra energy, of like sexual energy. So it could be that some of you haven't been able to find time in your schedule to make time for intimacy if you do have a partner, or if you are by yourself, that is still important. You can be intimate with yourself. That is a good way to tap into our creativity and to our imagination, and also to release stress. I'm getting some of you could be practicing celibacy. That's not for everyone, but it could just be for somebody here. But if that is you, and it's more like you are not currently engaging in intimacy with another person, maybe this is a reminder of like it's still important to spend time on yourself. Like you don't have to engage in intimacy with another person, like that's fine, but it's still important to find that release alone. You don't have to have another person. So look after yourself in that way. And also just take care of yourself in general. Like, you know, make sure you are hydrated, make sure you are well nourished so that your brain can function most effectively. There could be something as well about you reorganizing your space. Your higher self could be encouraging you, if you work from home, to maybe reorganize your desk or to invest in some items that spark joy. Maybe greenify your space a little bit. If you can't look after real plants, maybe get like a fake plant or something like that. Or a picture that inspires you. Maybe keep inspirational images by your desk or inspirational quotes or something along those lines. It's something to do with decorating your creative space. But that is what I'm getting for the oracle portion of your reading, Pal 5. I hope you are enjoying the reading so far. I'm sorry it has been a little bit all over the place so far, but that's just the energy I'm in right now. So we are going to move on to your tarot. Please bear with me and we'll get started with that. Hi Pal 5 Collective, welcome back to the tarot portion of your reading. I hope you are enjoying the reading so far. We are about to get onto your tarot reading, so I am going to pull some cards for you. This will be an elaboration and a deeper dive on some of the things we discussed throughout the oracle. So let's get started and let's find out what your higher self wants you to know right now. Okay, so we have got the Strength card reversed and the clarifier is the Eight of Pentacles reversed. We have got the Eight of Cups and the clarifier is the Page of Wands. We have the Six of Wands and the clarifier is the Five of Cups. And we have the King of Pentacles and the clarifier is the Page of Pentacles reversed. So for you, Pal 5, I feel like a lot of you could be struggling with the motivation to get started with something or to resume something because you feel as though something is blocking you in some kind of way from either getting started with that, getting the ball rolling, something's being put off. You feel like your potential is being wasted because you can't find the motivation to do or to continue with something. And it feels like something is getting in the way of your potential here. And for some of you, you could have felt this way for a long time, like there was a certain barrier that's getting in the way of you achieving your dreams. And for some of you, this could be an external thing, like maybe you are extremely drained from work or you've been really stressed out due to some kind of outside situation here. Something that has taken away a lot of your energy, something that has left you feeling quite depleted. And I am getting that because the Strength reverse often talks about low energy, but for this pile, I'm not necessarily seeing it as like low energy like you would get after not getting adequate sleep for a night or two. I mean, some of you could be struggling with getting to sleep and with getting your sleeping pattern into a consistent routine and with insomnia and things like that. But for many of you, it's more sort of like you could get 12 hours of sleep a night and still feel exhausted down to your bones. So for some of you, it feels more like a prolonged period of burnout. And some of you wish that you could just get away for a period of time in order to properly recuperate, because although you might have, like, if this is a work situation, let's say, although you might have time off work, it somehow doesn't feel like it's long enough to fully recover from the amount of lethargy that you are feeling. Because it's not just body tiredness, it's like tiredness in your brain as well. And that leaves you sort of unable to commit to your passions and throw yourself into the things that you really want to do, because maybe you're just focusing on like getting by and surviving. And you know, that does happen. And I think this goes back to what we were talking about in the oracle when we mentioned like make sure you get your bloods done, make sure you get a health check, make sure you're not deficient in anything, because if it's winter where you are, you could be struggling with something like low vitamin D, and you'd be surprised by how much that can have an impact on our cognition and the physical aches and pains we are feeling in our body. So if you've been struggling with this prolonged period of very, very low energy, that could be the barrier we're talking about here, because maybe it's hard for you to really throw yourself into your creative practices and your projects when you're so worn out just from getting through the day. And it doesn't have to be a work situation, it could be another situation, but I really feel like there's something here about a barrier. For some of you, it could even be like something to do with your brain health or your cognition, and you're awaiting a diagnosis. And if you were to be diagnosed, you would maybe get the help and support you need to function and be able to live your life more fully. But right now, maybe you aren't able to access the accommodations just yet. And so it makes it hard for you to thrive rather than like just get by. So that could be something that you're waiting on. And I think your higher self wants to acknowledge that they know you've been tired, they know you've been really run down, they can recognize that. And it feels like, to a certain degree, people around you could have mislabeled this as lazy, but you have always been aware that it's something more. And I think your higher self wants to acknowledge this because they know the real you. So if you are like pushing for a diagnosis, I think this is your higher self encouraging you to do that. And they're saying like, if you know something isn't right, and this message won't be for everyone. I don't want to tell you you've got a health issue. Like if you're not feeling this way, if you haven't been feeling this way at all, you know, ignore that. And hopefully you can still take something from other parts of the reading. I think this is basically your higher self saying, if you know that something isn't right, you know yourself better than anyone, and don't let anyone try and gaslight you. Don't let anyone try and tell you it's nothing. I know as women, we experience that a lot, or we will get things like, oh, it's probably just stress, and oh, it's probably just your hormones. Like, there's a lot we don't know about women's bodies in medical communities even. And I'm not saying that can't be true. Like, yes, maybe it is stress, maybe it is hormones, but that is still worthy of investigation and clarification, especially if, you know, it is impacting your quality of life. So if you know that something isn't right, I think this is your higher self saying, yes, go through with that. Like, make sure you attend your medical appointments. Make sure you don't ignore this. If you are feeling that way, please get it checked out. And please don't let anyone tell you like, oh, you're just being lazy. And I feel like something that happens a lot, if you tell somebody you are struggling with a certain symptom, and especially when it's in relation to tiredness or like chronic fatigue, and some of you could have actually been diagnosed with chronic fatigue or something like that that makes you cripplingly tired some of the time, it's really hard to explain that feeling to somebody else if they have never felt that level of fatigue or exhaustion, or, you know, at least if they don't feel that way day to day. Because I feel like the way our society operates, most of us are tired. You know, a lot of us live very fast-paced lives. We consume a lot of information. Our default state as humans in this day and age is often tired. So I think although people are well-meaning, sometimes when you try to explain, like, oh, I'm really, really tired because of XYZ condition, you will be met with like, yeah, I think we're all a bit tired. And again, I don't think a lot of the time it's ill-intentioned. I think more often than not, this is just people trying to relate. And that's normal, isn't it? Like, you're having chit chat with somebody and you'll be like, oh, I couldn't sleep last night, I'm so tired. And then somebody will be like, yeah, same, I'm so tired as well. But obviously, when you deal with a condition that leaves you chronically exhausted and unable to get out of bed on some days, that is very different to the day-to-day tiredness and fatigue that a lot of us experience just due to society. And it's not like a game of comparison. I'm not saying that because somebody is less tired than you, then your tiredness is more valid. Obviously, if anyone is tired, then they deserve rest. And we all probably could do with more rest than what our society is currently able to offer. But I just mean it must be frustrating if you do deal with any kind of chronic condition or illness that leaves you very exhausted. It's difficult to get across just how much a condition can be affecting us when so many of us deal with similar symptoms, but they vary in severity. And some people's lives are more impacted by these symptoms and the severity of them than other people. So I think sometimes when you say to a person like, oh, I'm tired, they say same, and that's true, but they probably assume, because tired is such a broad spectrum, they might assume like, oh, this person is tired just like I am. well, I'll get an early night tonight and then I'll be fine. Whereas with some conditions, it doesn't work that way. The tiredness can be ongoing, and that's when the lack of understanding comes in, because certain people will be like, well, I was tired too, but I just went to bed early and I fixed it. And it's like, it doesn't always work that way, is what I'm trying to say. And you might actually experience PAL 5 if you do work any kind of corporate job. You could have people around you who kind of compete for the tiredness Olympics. Like, if you say, I'm tired, you might have somebody who responds with like, well, I was up with my baby all night and you couldn't possibly be more tired than me. You don't know what it's like to experience my level of tiredness. Especially if you are relatively young and you seem able-bodied, or if you have some kind of invisible disability, people might assume that you struggle less than you actually do. And you could have a lot of wounds that are kind of tied up with feeling like you are an underachiever, or you haven't achieved as much as what you would like. Some of you might at times, despite being incredibly intelligent and having a huge imagination and a wonderfully active, creative brain naturally, some of you might feel like at the moment you've been feeling quite slow, or you've been feeling quite sluggish. And some of this could be due to that stress and that burnout that we mentioned, or if you have any, disability or anything like that influencing this feeling and intensifying it, that could absolutely play a part too in a huge way. And maybe people don't always understand that, and that is a bit of a bone of contention with you, because if they can't see it, like they can't see it, maybe sometimes you wish people could live in your body for one day so they would know what you feel like. But I think a lot of this is to do with a general sense of disenchantment in your current occupation, or in the thing you are currently working on. It feels like you want to have a little bit of time away from it. Again, I think it goes back to that feeling almost of like you wish you could just take a year out. And I'm almost feeling like you wish you could take a year out from life, but kind of come back to it with everything where you left it. It's almost like a few of you would love to be able to pause time and just like be on your own and be introspective and go soul searching for a bit, and then just kind of come back to your everyday life. But it feels like you need this extended period of recuperation, and you need to like go on a retreat somewhere or something like that. But maybe that's not possible at the current phase of your life you're in. And maybe you are feeling a little bit disappointed with where you're at. You could have been feeling quite pessimistic because you don't see a way forward. Many of you could actually be thinking about walking away or leaving your job altogether, and you're trying to think of an escape plan of how you could go about that, because I think you have realized that you want more for yourself. Maybe you feel disappointed by the current job you're in because maybe it was sold to you as something different. The vibe I'm getting is almost like you want to go and find yourself again, or almost like a university student wanting to go on a gap year but having other responsibilities to attend to, so maybe they can't. And I'm not saying like you're a university student, it doesn't have to be that example, but it's the vibe it's giving me, that feeling of like, I just need to take a year out from life. Like, I just need to hit the pause button. I just need to be able to snooze for a bit. I just need to be able to do my own thing and escape this current place. Some of you could be thinking about walking away from a dead-end job. You could be considering leaving a workplace, and you could be figuring out how to enter more of a creative field. And I think what your higher self wants you to know is that if you decide to go down that path, this could be incredibly lucrative and incredibly fulfilling for you and very, very rewarding. But the place you're in at the moment, I think your higher self is saying like, I know you feel like you've hit a bit of a dead end, or I know you feel stuck or disappointed in the current place you're at. Some of you, I think you've just discovered recently like there is more to life, and you don't want to have to deal with this boring, mundane, repetitive job. A lot of you could have found that like sometimes you make careless mistakes at your job, or sometimes you can't concentrate properly. And I feel like it's because the job is not something that you're truly passionate about. You can't throw everything into it. You can't feel excited about it because it doesn't spark joy. You don't care about it. It's not your dream. Maybe it feels like you're wasting your time living someone else's dream, and it feels as though you could have had an awakening recently where you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do something different. I have spent too long wasting my potential and wasting my talent due to these other things that were occupying space in my brain, but I cannot commit to more and more years of doing this dead end job, of being in this career that I don't really love, that I'm not really passionate about, and that I don't see a future in. It could have been that you got into a field, once being very passionate about it, but now you're feeling like this isn't what it was cracked up to be, this isn't what I was sold, I thought it would be different to this, and I am no longer interested in this field. But maybe you've got to a place where you're unsure where to go from here, and you're feeling like you need more time to think about it, maybe to take some time away, but maybe that's not possible because, I don't think it will be possible for many people unless we have disposable income that we have saved up, which I'm not saying that can't apply. Maybe you have saved up money, and you are deciding to take a year out and go traveling and figure out what you want to do or something like that. But I think for the most part, that's not possible for many of us because we don't have the money saved up to do that, or we have other responsibilities, we have other obligations, and we can't just, put our life on hold in that way. But it just feels like you are wanting more time to fully figure out the route you want to go down. I think you have come to this stage where you are aware that you don't want to do jobs that drain your energy like this. Like, you want your next job to be something where your imagination can truly thrive, and you want it to be something you can put your heart and soul into, because this current place that you're in, it feels as though you are very apathetic towards it. Maybe it feels like just a paycheck, you're no longer invested in it, you don't really want to make the effort, and maybe the more you're there, the more you're finding that it's depleting some of your energy. And also, I feel like you don't really feel appreciated there because it feels like you're not being designated jobs that would allow you to live up to your full potential. Maybe you have not been given the correct support in terms of training. Maybe you have not been able to climb up the ladder. But I think a part of you is kind of saying like, but I don't really want to climb up the ladder here. Like, I don't want to be in the place I'm in now, but I also don't want to commit to several more years of training to climb up this corporate ladder, when actually what I want is to be doing something creative and something that brings joy to my heart and soul, something where I'm able to fully express myself. Because I think a lot of you are really, really passionate people, and you need to make your creative practices an everyday part of your life. And maybe due to these other external factors like this work situation or other things that are draining you, you've not been able to prioritize that. And I think your higher self is reiterating like your creativity is so, so important for you, because that's where you absolutely thrive. And I think if you are going into any kind of creative field, that could be exactly what you need. Like, obviously, if you are having health issues, make sure you're taking the right medication, make sure you're taking your supplements, because that is going to be a big thing that allows you to restore some of that energy that you may have lost as of recently. But I also think doing something creative is what makes you feel most alive, and so you are going to get that joy and that energy back by doing something that truly aligns with your heart and soul like that. And a lot of you, I feel like your higher self is saying you've been made to feel like an underachiever, or you haven't been able to show people your true potential or what you're capable of throughout the whole of your life, because you've not been granted the opportunity to be in environments that nourish that. I feel like your higher self is saying sometimes you need to create that for yourself, because maybe like you found, oh, I've gone from job to job to job, and it could be these sort of boring, repetitive tasks that you have to do. And you're like, I can't find anything that works for me. And maybe you've internalized that as like, maybe that's a failure on my part, because other adults around me, like my peers, seem to be able to go into this job and then they move up the ladder, and I can't seem to do that. Maybe you felt like in the past you don't have enough follow through to like climb in that way. Or maybe like even just doing like the dead end jobs, you've been struggling to stay afloat. But it's because I think you are meant to sort of create your own destiny. You are meant to shape a life that works for you. And I think this goes back to what we were saying in the Oracle about like maybe a very strict schedule doesn't work for somebody with as creative of a brain as you have. I think your higher self is reminding you here that you are truly this free spirit. You are meant to be this wanderer. Maybe you are not meant to stay stuck in one place. And if you are interested in going down a more creative route or starting your own business, I think your higher self is saying, there's no reason why you can't get looking into that right now. And that's not saying like go ahead and quit your job and start a business and it's going to be a success overnight. I'm not saying that, but I just mean if you've got to the stage where you are so fed up with your own procrastination and it's a choice between staying in this place that you don't like or going after what you truly want and what inspires you, even looking into how that idea could take root could actually kind of reawaken something within you. It could sort of bring you back to life again, because some of you, it feels like you've been kind of trapped in this stagnant energy where you're like, oh, well, this is what life is. Like, I get up at 6 a.m, I have my oats, I go to work, I come home, I shower, I sleep, like, this is it. Is there anything more? And I think your higher self is saying, like, yes, there could be so much more. And if anyone has the potential to do more, then it is you, because you have imagination and you have creativity in abundance. So if you feel like, I need to do something creative, listen to that, because you truly do have limitless potential here, Pal 5. I don't think you even realize how successful you could be. I think if you've come here looking for an answer and you're asking your higher self, why do I feel disappointed with where I'm at? Why have these other career prospects or these other projects not worked out for me? Why have I lost passion for this? Do I need to go in a new direction? Do I need to do something creative? I think this is your higher self saying, maybe you're disappointed because you haven't been given the opportunity to truly show your potential and to shine. And if you were to choose to go into a more creative field, if you chose to nurture a creative business, this could be extremely lucrative for you. And it would also allow you to show people what you're really made of, is something that I'm getting, because with this 6 of Wands, this creative endeavor could result in a lot of recognition. For some of you, it could be very public recognition and even fame. And I feel like this is kind of saying, when you start doing this, you will know it's the right thing, because you will feel so much more confident. And there's going to be this sense of like, oh, this is what I was supposed to be doing all along. Like, oh, I get it now. And I feel like you will be receiving a lot of compliments on whatever it is you do. A lot of people will be noticing for you for your work. And maybe that's something you're not used to. If you are used to being underestimated in certain jobs and things like that, if you are used to being considered an underachiever, this is actually you being an overachiever, because I think your higher self is saying, when you really do care about something, when you are feeling a lot of passion towards it, you are such an overachiever. Like, you can do far more than what you thought you were capable of. And it could be that you go from like being that person in your job who, when somebody asks you a question, you're kind of shrugging, you're like, I don't know, because you don't really care, you're not really invested in it. But when you are truly invested in something, that is when you can shine and step up into more of a leadership energy. Like, if it's your own business, you are capable of pouring your entire heart and soul into it and creating something long lasting. This could lead to you literally creating an empire, like a thriving business. Maybe the reason you haven't been able to get along well in other career paths is because you are not meant to be following somebody else's rules. You have a very entrepreneurial spirit, and you are meant to be creating your own rules, and you are also meant to be breaking the rules. And it's not that you're not capable of working hard. When you are committed to a goal, when it's something that truly aligns with you at a soul level, you really can see things through to the end and you can make it a success. And you are very much capable of creating that solid and stable life for yourself, and an abundant life as well. I think that's something that your higher self wants to know, that if that is something you're going into, and even if you have kind of started this already, if you are working on a creative project, but maybe it hasn't got off the ground yet, this is your higher self saying, like, it's only a matter of time. Keep going at it. Don't give up. If you haven't seen results just yet, it's not because you're not good at this. It's not because you're not meant for this. Don't be disappointed in yourself, because getting started is a massive, massive part. Breaking through procrastination and going after the things you want to go after is such a huge thing, and it's something that you should be very proud of yourself for. But success doesn't always happen overnight. Eventually, you will receive your reward for this. Eventually, you will receive the recognition. Your hard work will pay off. So that is what I'm getting for your reading, Pal 5. I really, really hope you enjoyed this reading today. If you did like the reading, please don't forget to like the video. Please comment, let me know what resonated, or just let me know which pal you picked. If you don't feel comfortable, let me know what resonated. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thank you so much for listening. Take care, and I will see you in the next one.